the elimination of aging. The elimination of aging, first of all, will actually only rather modestly increase the rate at which the population of the planet rises. But what's important to bear in mind is, in addition to the fact that fertility rates are plummeting all over the world, we have technologies being developed right now that are going to increase the carrying capacity of the planet far more rapidly, far more steeply than the population of the planet is going to increase. I'm talking, of course, about renewable energy, you know, artificial meat, desalination. All of these things will reduce the amount that we pollute the environment, and therefore they will allow more people to be on the planet with less environmental impact.
Well, I share your view, Aubrey. I like the fact that we could live our life while we're here as healthy and as fit as possible. And I wish you well in spreading the message.
Thank you.
You're clearly a young man, so you can go on forever doing it.
This will shock you, just how much of an impact being lonely can have on your health. What they have found now in a few different studies is that it's on par with being a smoker. It increases your risk of real diseases like heart disease, like diabetes. So we think about loneliness in this abstract sense, but the health effects are very objective and very real. As a neuroscientist, I was so interested in this idea that we know where pain resides in the brain. And what we now know is that people who are chronically lonely, they have higher activity in that pain part of the brain. So even though it's loneliness, it can register as physical pain. Having friends really does seem to keep people healthy. The simple act of being social, we find people's immune systems actually perform better. Simply saying hello can make the person who gets that greeting live longer. The evidence is pretty clear on this. And we're starting to get more and more evidence that you yourself, by saying hello, it's so empowering that could actually do wonders for your health as well.
Well, I'm not sure about hello, but it's goodbye from me just for an hour, though. Amanda Kane's up next with the big picture, and she will be talking about the business of football. That's coming up next, and I'll be back to say hello again for the Newsmaker Hour at 8. See you then.
What are the challenges of creating a learning environment that equips our students with the skills they need for jobs that don't yet exist? How will Switzerland maintain its competitive edge as a premium leader in education? And what's the role of finishing in private schools in Swiss and global society? We answer those questions on Learning Curve, our programme dedicated to higher learning in Switzerland.
Learning Curve with Amanda Kane on CNN Money Switzerland.
Entertainment, culture, fashion, arts and lifestyle. We've got it covered on Spotlight.
Spotlight with Martina Fuchs on CNN Money Switzerland.
It's high energy and fast-paced, so buckle up as Front Seat brings you the latest news and views from the automotive world.
Front Seat with Hannah Wise on CNN Money Switzerland.
Entertainment.
Losses of nearly £1 billion Swiss francs for Credit Suisse. But earnings out on Wednesday satisfy investors as the share price rises. We're finding out just what's going on with the Swiss bank in the living markets this Wednesday. Coming up in the big picture, romance is in the air. It's Valentine's Day, and if you are in love or looking for love, the price of passion can be expensive. The business of love is booming, and on the big picture, we look at why technology is the new Cupid's arrow.
I'm using Tinder because it's the most popular and I've used it before, but also because the other one that's most popular and that I know is Bumble, but I don't feel very comfortable in being the one that makes the first step in a conversation.
And in the world of brand awareness, the word luxury is very often associated with high-end items. But it's a word that's overused, according to the man behind the successful Swiss watch brand Audemars Piguet. He tells us managing growth at a time when the industry is suffering is down to a strong belief in their brand.
I do believe that we are just staying true to who we are, that we work on what we stand for every single day, that we want to redefine what true luxury means, because many people have used the word luxury for now over 10 years. And I think that word has been abused.
Okay.
And we do believe that Audemars Piguet, when we have to define the word luxury, it's like exclusivity. That defines luxury, exclusivity, scarcity.
Good evening. You're watching the Swiss Pulse. I'm Hannah Weiss. Welcome to the Living Markets. Good evening and welcome to the Living Markets. We're going to start tonight, as usual, with a roundup of all the main news headlines. The Swiss Federal Council has revealed a 2017 budget surplus of 2.8 billion Swiss francs this Valentine's Day. But not everyone is loving the news, especially those who fought hard to finalise the budget in the first place. The news also reignites the debate about the precision of Swiss budget process, which tends to overestimate costs. On top of the 2.8 billion francs, the Swiss government has also separated a further 2 billion francs from the main results to deal with deferred liabilities. Swiss bank UBS has closed the accounts of the World Chess Federation this Wednesday after its president was accused of dealings with the Syrian government. Russian millionaire Kirsan Ilumshinov has been on a US Treasury Department sanctions list since 2015, but denies any wrongdoing. The World Chess Federation, which is based in Lausanne, said that Mr. Ilumshinov had been told he was going to be removed from the list several times, which is why the bank allowed their accounts to remain open until now. Despite an upturn in sales for the watch industry, Apple appears to be raising the bar even further by shipping more watches in the last quarter than the whole of the Swiss watch industry. That's according to Statista. Apple apparently shipped 8 million of its smart watches in the fourth quarter of 2017, while all of the Swiss-based watch companies combined shipped 6.8 million watches. More good news for Main Street is more bad news for Wall Street. US inflation is rising at a faster rate than expected. Fears of this happening prompted the market volatility of recent weeks. Take a listen.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
Lloyd Blankfein?
I haven't felt this way. I haven't felt this good since 2006.
Yeah, that's not what I want to hear.
Exactly.
A difference a decade.
OK, well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is insisting this Wednesday that his coalition government is stable. It comes after police said that they have enough evidence to indict the Israeli leader on charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust in two corruption cases. The decision on whether to proceed with a trial now rests with the Attorney General. Netanyahu says the charges against him will end in nothing. The Israeli shekel suffered losses, though, against the US dollar following the news. Reversing Brexit would be a disastrous mistake. That's what Boris Johnson has revealed at a press conference this Wednesday. Here he is giving his reasons for following through with his government's plan to leave the European Union.
I fear that some people are becoming ever more determined to stop Brexit to reverse the referendum vote of June the 23rd, 2016, and to frustrate the will of the people. I believe that would be a disastrous mistake that would lead to permanent and ineradicable.
Well, that's you all up to date. Don't forget you can watch us live on YouTube. You can catch up with our not-to-be-missed content online at cnnmoney.ch. We're going to take a short break now for the weather, but stay with us. Up next is our market summary.
CNN Money Switzerland business weather, starting with Europe. Next step, Africa and the Middle East. Southeast Asia. And now Australia and Oceania. Let's go to North America. We end our trip with South America. CNN Money Switzerland accompanies you all over the world.
Welcome back to the Living Markets. We're going to get you up to speed now with the latest markets news. And of course, it's all about the Consumer Price Index coming out of the United States this Wednesday. We mentioned it a little earlier, but prices stateside are on the up and they're rising faster than expected. And it was a fear of this kind of thing happening that prompted the volatility on the markets that we saw over the last couple of weeks. Now, ahead of the inflation numbers, Asian markets, as you can see, ended mostly in the red. However, have a look at this. Green across the board in the United States, which is still trading, and closer to home here as well, we're ending in green territory. Now, the SMI also today finished in green territory, up 1.67%. So who are some of the local market movers here in Switzerland? Well, today, Swiss banking giant Credit Suisse delivered results for 2017. And it's all about the new business model that CEO Tidjane Thiam presented back in 2015. He had a 3-year turnaround plan. Was it successful? Well, that's the big question today. The year ended with a bit of a surprise. Although revenues were up in 2017, the year ended with a loss. And the reason for that was the tax reform in the United States, which had a one-off impact on those figures there. Assets under management and wealth management, though, rose to a record 772 billion Swiss francs. That is up 13% year on year. As you can imagine, that had a fairly positive effect on the share price today. Credit Suisse finishing the day in the green, up nearly 4%. Also making headlines today is Clariant, the Swiss-based company which produces a wide range of niche substances, everything from ingredients for cosmetics to herbicide. Well, they delivered a robust financial performance last year. Sales were up in Swiss francs, net income was up, dividends are up. So, as you can expect there, share price is up. Oh, it's not though. Share price is down today, down 2.41%, because the story is pretty complicated when it comes to Clariant. Last year, activist investor Whitetail put massive pressure on the company over its plan to merge with rival Huntsman. Now, Clariant ultimately abandoned the idea, but then Whitetail sold its 25% stake in the company to Saudi Arabia's state-controlled Sabic Group. Well, earlier, CNN Money Switzerland Andreas Hond spoke to Clariant CEO Harry Kottmann.
Many things went well in 2017. beside the effect that the year was very bizarre when it comes to the special situations. But if you look to our financials we have now presented today and we have achieved in 2017, we can be fully satisfied.
EBITDA margin before one-time effect is slightly up. You confirmed the mid-term target of 16 to 19% in November. So where do you see the most important growth factor in 2018?
In 2018, I think all our businesses will continue to grow. Maybe not so strong than in 2017 because this was over proportional, but all businesses will grow in 2018, and especially the pickup in the oil industry will push our oil and mining services, and I do assume that we see a similar impact in our catalyst business.
With a change of the strategic anchor shareholder Whitetail to SABIC, the situation is completely new. Do you think it is only a question of time until SABIC will take over the majority on Clariant shares?
First of all, Whitetail is not a strategic anchor shareholder. Whitetail was an activist who has the clear interest to maximize their own investment short term as much as possible. A strategic anchor shareholder like SABIC has the interest to develop the value of the company, the enterprise value of the company, mid to long term, in a completely different way. The second part of your question, the takeover of Clariant, as I just mentioned, my colleague Youssef Albenian is a very credible, reliable person, very international, experienced executive, and he has a clear common understanding with our team that there is no full takeover of Clariant by SABIC.
What is your strategy to keep Clariant independent on a solid basis throughout this year, as you said already?
Yeah, the strategy for us, we have an existing strategy. And the strategy is not directed to be independent. The strategy is directed to develop the value of the company step by step. And our existing strategy, based on 4 modules or five pillars, 5 modules, is a very successful one. We are implementing this strategy since years, and we will continue to do so.
You were preparing for a large fight against Whitetail at the AGM. Are you happy that the fight is over?
For sure. A proxy fight at an AGM with an activist shareholder is not good for the reputation of the company, reputation for the people. It absorbs a lot of energy and it costs a hell of money. Therefore, we are very satisfied with the solution we have found.
Were you preparing to step down as CEO?
No, there was no reason for me to prepare to step down. If our shareholders in an AGM via proxy fight would have made the decision that the new management has responsibility for the company, then for sure I would have left the company, like all other executives of Clariant. But currently is not an issue.
How much of your time did you have to spend in the battle against the activist investor?
100%.
How much money did the whole battle against the Whitetail cost?
We talk about extraordinary payments for 2017, including the terminated merger with Huntsman and all activities around the activist shareholder of approximately 50 million Swiss francs.
After this year, how do you look at the activist investors in general? Can they be a threat to a company?
They are a threat to a company. It depends on the company. I think you have to discuss each case individually and analyze the reasons why an activist shareholder is entering a company and what are the objectives of this activist shareholders. I think this is really based on individual cases.
So should Swiss regulators be more aware of activist investors, in your opinion?
I don't think so. I think regulations top-down by governments or by legislation is the wrong way.
Well, our first guest tonight in Living Markets is exactly the kind of man we want to be speaking to this Valentine's Day. It is Peter Casanova, who's not here to talk about love, but you're an analyst at Julius Baer.
Good evening.
Good evening. And we're going to talk about Credit Suisse because they've had results out today. I mean, for me, share price never ceased to surprise me. On one hand, a company has good results and then their share price is down. Today with Credit Suisse, we've seen they've made losses of nearly 1 billion Swiss francs. And yet investors seem to be happy.
Yeah, because if you look at what these results do, if you take away the loss and if you take away restructuring and everything, then you see that actually the plan the CEO has developed 3 years ago is about to work now. It's getting traction. And that's certainly the good news. If you look then into the results in details, there are many noises and you will find numbers that are not so good and maybe you'll find trends that are mixed. But overall, it demonstrates that it makes progress and that's it. OK, we're going to talk about this 3-year plan in just a minute, but take us through some of the highs and lows embedded in these results. What are some of the things that maybe surprised you today? Overall, I think it was pretty much in line. The net number was even stronger, but taking away, let's say, the restructuring, taking away this tax issue, taking away the garbage or the bad banks, or the bit that the CEO does not want to have in the future, the core results, so the bank that goes into the future, actually was slightly weaker. And as always, you see in banking, also at Credit Suisse, you tend to see the last quarter spike in the cost-income ratio. That's exactly what happened. You mentioned there this tax charge. Yes. You know, we've been speaking to many Swiss companies who are kind of jumping for joy with this new US tax reform. But this is, I guess, the flip side, because Credit Suisse had to deal with some taxes from before the reforms came in, and that's what's kind of really hit them, hasn't it? Yes, Credit Suisse and also UBS, by the way, and Deutsche, they are famous for making losses in the US, and they have put up a huge amount of losses, and they have tax assets that they can reverse against that. Now, with tax rates going down, this means these losses or these, let's say, these hidden assets are worth less, and therefore they had to write off a part of it. The Swiss Universal Bank, the kind of part of the business of Credit Suisse that is Switzerland, that seems to be doing quite well. It does good, it does well. Actually, I think it has now delivered 8 quarters of increasing profitability, which is certainly an achievement. We should not forget the starting point for this entity was not disastrous like for the market entity. So it is a good achievement, and Credit Suisse Switzerland is working very well. Well, given that they're doing so well, do you think a plan by Tidjane Thiam to bury a planned listing of that part of the business was a good decision? I think yes, because getting rid of parts of your best business or your best business that is doing well is not a good idea in the long run. And I think it has also to do with the fact that Credit Suisse is Swiss-based, so that's really the heart of the group. So from that point of view, I think it was a good decision. Obviously, it was also opportunistic because the capital increase at this point in time appeared to be the easier option. Tidjane Thiam has been in office since 2015. He is all about this 3-year turnaround. It's now 2018. Has he done enough? Difficult to say whether he's done enough. In terms of numbers, if you take away all the garbage that we don't want to have in the future, I would argue it's about 50% through. We have a return on tangible equity of about 4.5% or 5%. He wants to achieve more than 10% by 2019, so you could say about halfway through. We have 2 years gone, he has 1 more year to go. So you could say, if you want to be nasty, you could say he's a bit late. On the other side, we all know restructurings take time, and very often we have kind of J-curve with the results coming in towards the end. So I would say he's on track. We've been talking a lot about what's been happening on the VIX, the volatility indexes. Credit Suisse had a little bit of trouble. We reported on it earlier this week. They had a kind of short-term exchange-traded note, which they had to kind of stop because they lost so much in the volatility. Yes, this was actually in the prospectus written. If there was a one-day loss of 80%, then the product would be liquidated, and that's what happened. Now, the bad thing is, obviously, if you have been a private investor, you lose 80% of your money. The good thing is you have learned it early at the correction, and you can do smarter things with the money going forward.
Given everything we've talked about, what should we do with stock in Credit Suisse, at Credit Suisse?
Yeah, that's kind of a difficult question. I tend to be a positive thinking person and say, okay, the glass is half full. However, with Credit Suisse, UBS and the likes, I have troubles in arguing that, because if you go back in history, 10 years, 15, 20 years, you see that these have been massive underperformance. They have actually destroyed value in portfolios of private individuals. And therefore, I think, are they really there to be in the portfolio? My answer is rather not. Now, sorry we have seen a very strong increase in the share price since, obviously, since signs of the turnaround came across, and I have downgraded the stock at 18 francs in January. Say, look, it is about a bit expensive now, and maybe most of the good things are already priced in. And
so, based on that, and very briefly, do you see more potential in other Swiss financial institutions?
If again we take the very long-term view, then insurance companies doing much better. We have good potential in Swiss Life. We have Helvetia, which is one of our stock picks, but also in Hannover Re, for example, if we want to go into the euro, much better prospects.
Peter Casanova from Julius Baer, thank you very much indeed.
A pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, do stay with us here. We are breaking down US consumer prices next, and of course that faster than expected inflation in the United States. We'll be talking to Swissquote's Peter Rosenstreich. That's after the break. For now, you're watching The Living Markets.
CNN Money Switzerland brings you the content you need, whenever, wherever you need it. On our website, cnnmoney.ch, or on your favorite social media platform. Only from CNN Money Switzerland.
News programmes are usually full of short stories that hardly go beneath the surface. We give you the big picture. Every weekday evening at 7 p.m, the big picture goes deeper, looking at an issue from different angles and bringing you the guests who take time to speak, explain and elaborate. Our viewers get a deeper understanding of the day's issues and the context that underlies them. The Big Picture, weekdays from 7 to 8 p.m.
How do you make sure you're feeling good? We'll be focusing on all the tools available to us today to make sure we're physically and mentally healthy. From monitoring and avoiding disease to reactive and preventative healthcare. In particular, we'll be delving into the latest innovation coming out of Switzerland to ensure a long and healthy life.
Feeling Good with Amanda Kane on CNN Money Switzerland.
Entertainment, culture, fashion, arts, and lifestyle. We've got it covered on Spotlight.
Spotlight with Anna Maria Montero on CNN Money Switzerland.
I've spent all of my career in the field, and I think that informs who I want to talk to, but more importantly, who wants to and who accepts to talk to me. And I hope that what I bring to the table is a rigorous search for the truth and a rigorous determination and an effort to hold power accountable.
Amanpour. CNN Money Switzerland is designed to flow through information. Our network provides a unique take on live, worldwide financial news. We are not your common news outlet. Instead, we act as a global catalyst of interconnected information. Our live studio provides you with a detailed and sharp analysis, predicting what is yet to come. From the heart of Europe, watch CNN Money Switzerland.
Welcome back to the Living Markets. I'm Hannah Wise, and we're going to talk consumer prices and the faster than expected rate of inflation coming out of the United States today. Joining me in the studio from Swissquote is Head of Market Strategy, Peter Rosenstreich. Thanks for coming back in to see us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so consumer price index is out. People are paying more for their rent, their food, things like that. And so inflation is moving faster than expected.
Yeah, today's number was really a surprise on the upside and caught the market off guard. There was a good portion that expected, a better than expected number, but not this fast and not as broad as many people expected. There was a nice surge in what's called core goods, which are sort of appliances where everyday people are purchasing. And that shows that this is probably more of a deep-rooted, lasting trend in inflation rather than sort of a one-off that we could sort of count and say, hey, inflation's not improving in the U.S. So it'll have a relatively profound effect on how the Fed is thinking and what they're going to have to do with monetary policy.
Well, I find it quite interesting looking at what's happening on the stock market today, because in the run-up to this event, these numbers, the stock market was kind of a little bit jittery on the possibility that inflation could be faster than expected. And then suddenly, lo and behold, it's confirmed, and the Dow is doing pretty well today.
Well, I think people are still digesting what exactly happened 2 weeks ago. I think there's still a lot of debate. There is this sort of theory that, a lot of it was trading on volatility or the VIX. And it wasn't actually sort of fundamental thinking about equities, but actually a trade on volatility that trickled into stocks. So if you take that theory and then push it on to today's inflation numbers and then expectations for Fed policy, then, it doesn't look as sort of exciting or dangerous if you're a sort of a long equity holder. It just looks as if that the market is beginning to price in tighter monetary policy. Outlook for inflation continues to move to the upside, but that doesn't necessarily mean the end of sort of this long bull run that we've seen so far.
And, I mean, is this an indication then that actually the Fed is not going to do anything out of the ordinary? Is that why people are a bit more tempered, do you think?
Right. I think Yellen and soon-to-be Powell has done a very good job sort of communicating their strategy very cautiously, very gradual process. So there is sort of this idea that the market's already priced in 3, and now they're maybe leaning towards 4 interest rate hikes, but that's not scary considering how low policy rates are. So I think it's a very good sign of what Yellen has done so far.
And so given that, are fears slightly calmed? Are we going to see this kind of market continue as is, or do you foresee anything else on the horizon?
I think in the near term, I think the market is probably going to calm down. And that's because just because the Fed is tightening slightly more than expected, we don't think they're going to slam on the brakes or sort of pull the proverbial punch bowl away from investors. What we need for a sort of a longer-term sustained pullback or correction in equities is probably the ECB and the Bank of Japan to also come in and tighten monetary policy. And that, to us, is going to be sort of the game changer and the paradigm shift where the markets say, hey, global monetary policy is loose, which is good for stocks. We have the Fed that's tightening, but it's offset by everybody else. Then we move into a phase where other central banks are now tightening policy, and that becomes very difficult.
And the next one to do that is the ECB.
The next, so the ECB is the next major policy decision is the ECB. Most likely they will talk down the improvements in the European economy, talk down the sort of movement to tighten monetary policy, still emphasizing the need to see more data coming forward. So they really do not want to give any signals that tighter policy is coming because it has a very profound effect both on equity prices, but probably more important for Europe, the pricing of the euro, which is gaining strength significantly. So Draghi doesn't want to signal that rates are going to be, or policy is going to change too dramatically too soon. It's more likely September that we're going to start seeing a really actively sort of hawkish ECB.
So what does this mean? for us here in Switzerland.
Yeah.
What does this mean for the SNB?
Well, the SNB is very much probably happy with the conditions right now, although the Swiss franc has been gaining because of the risk aversion trade. But we should start seeing that come off and Euro Swiss start heading higher. So I think they're in a very good position. I think they need to continue to push back on speculation that monetary policy will start tightening sooner than expected, or even sooner than the ECB. I think they need to make it very clear that any tightening or any interest rate improvement will happen after the ECB. I think that's critical. So if they're able to do that and say that policy rate will stay loose in Switzerland, then the SMI and Swiss equities should continue to outpace other global markets.
And a lot of the analysts that we're speaking to recently are saying that there will be no changes from the SNB until the end of this year.
I agree with that, yes. I mean, I think it's very premature to think that the SNB is going to do anything this year.
Let's talk about commodities because, you know, as well as the stock markets back in the green, almost all of them anyway, oil and gold is also on the up today. Is that surprising?
It's a little bit. You know, it tells us more the story that oil especially is trading on sort of speculative outlook rather and sort of risk appetite rather than, you know, core fundamentals. And I think what we're seeing as a pullback on oil prices recently is a readjustment that, yes, global growth is good, but demand is really not going to offset what we're seeing as a sort of the global supply glut that has been pushing oil prices down. And we also see this idea that when oil prices start increasing significantly, we see the U.S. especially production in shale start increasing, and that's going to push down prices. So what we're seeing, I think, right now is pullback in oil prices specifically as the markets readjust to the realities of what the market is demanding and not just sort of speculation.
Now, we're talking today about all of this because of the Consumer Price Index and hotel earning results are looking pretty healthy as well.
Absolutely.
What does that tell us about consumers?
I mean, here as an analyst, we always look for sort of non-traditional ways of viewing what's happening in the marketplace. And when you look at discretionary spending on things like travel and hotels, it really tells a good story that's very difficult to cloud over how well and how healthy the global consumer is. So we have a few major hotel chains coming out in terms of corporate earnings today. And that should, if they improve, tell us that, yes, the global consumer is healthy and doing well. And that should be put into our models rather than just sort of surveys and sort of existential type of data. This is a real indicator as consumers reach in their pockets and spend real money.
And what about us here in Switzerland?
Well, there was an interesting article that came out that exports into China has increased about 13+%. And I think what it tells is that, you know, that global growth is going to be very good for 2018. And Switzerland is ideally positioned to sort of hoover up a lot of that growth. So our expectations for a stronger China goes very well with this idea that Switzerland's pharmaceuticals, chemicals, watches, precision machineries will be continued to export into China, and that should bring back you know, a stronger growth for Switzerland.
Okay, Peter Rosenstreich, you paint a very rosy picture for Switzerland this Valentine's Day.
I like to think so. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. All right, coming up with after the break, he has over 1 million followers on Instagram, a successful blog, and several photo books. After the break, we're catching up with Scott Schumann, one of the world's best-known street-style photographers. Stay with us.
Since the founding of the Red Cross in 1863, the city of Geneva has a long tradition of hosting international organizations. In our program, International Geneva, we'll be exploring issues of international cooperation, humanitarian assistance and human rights, and talk to international players about the challenges and solutions to global problems.
International Geneva with Martina Fuchs on CNN Money Switzerland.
CNN Money Switzerland brings you the content you need, whenever, wherever you need it. Get the latest Swiss business and financial information on TV, on our website, cnnmoney.ch, or on your favorite social media platform. The best Swiss business news whenever and wherever you need it. Only from CNN Money Switzerland.
How do you turn your idea into a successful business in Switzerland? If you want to develop your business, have individual mentoring and coaching, optimize your business model, develop a marketing strategy, acquire new skills, learn how to network. Romandie Formation, business opportunities anywhere.
What drives the Swiss business world? What makes the economy tick? And how do companies react to the ever-changing challenges of the markets? We've got our finger on the Swiss pulse. We'll bring you the ups and downs, bulls and bears of the world of business, always asking what it means for you. The Swiss Pulse, weekdays from 6 to 9 p.m.
Business is always changing. Keep up with CNN Money. Maggie Lake is live in the heart of the world's economic epicenter, New York City, tracking all the action of the stock exchanges and the big business stories from around the world. Get top analysis of market movement and a daily breakdown of financial headlines. CNN Money with Maggie Lake.
At the end of the business day, we're only just getting started. On the living markets from 6 to 7 p.m., we crunch the numbers on the financial markets, bring you the top analysis of the day, and set the agenda for tomorrow. Always with Switzerland's important global links in mind. The living markets, weeknights from 6 to 7 p.m., only on CNN Money Switzerland.
Welcome back to the Living Markets. It's time now for some sports news. Matt Layton joins us in our studio, sports correspondent. And of course, Matt, we're going to be talking all about the Olympics. I need my daily update, my daily fix of that. But first, it was a pretty big night of football last night for Basel, wasn't it? What
Champions
happened?
League, last 16, Basel 0. Manchester City 4. Statistically, Manchester City passed the ball 892 times. They had possession 70% of the time, which, if you do the maths, they passed the ball every 4 seconds. Poor old Basel were running around like madmen, and they didn't have a chance, really. There was a huge difference in class, to be fair.
So this wasn't an expected scoreline?
Yes, and Basel did themselves proud. If they'd have had a Ronaldo at the end of the day, they'd have probably scored 3 goals. But Manchester City were a bit lax as well. But yes, the next match for Basel is in Manchester on the 7th of March. All they have to do to qualify for the quarterfinals is score more than 4 goals, with Manchester City not having to score.
Well,
the
when
odds
you put it
are...
like that, yes,
no,
sounds easy.
It's not going to happen. The footy fans, PSG against Real Madrid tonight and Porto against Liverpool. But let's go to the Olympics.
Yes, so we're 5 days in and we have a medal. Just one, I think. How well are we doing then? I mean, compare 5 days in this time to 5 days in the last couple of times for us.
OK, the caveat, the warning is it's been windy. So the major events for Switzerland have been cancelled. But if you look back over the years, Switzerland have 1 medal, 90 have been given out so far in 30 events. So that's appalling. However, if you look back, we've already done better than Innsbruck, 64, they had no medals. Albertville in 92, they had 3 medals. 3 times, 76, 80, 84, they had 5 medals, but they're OK generally. If you look back for the last 24 hours, what's happened, the ice hockey ladies, and these are the best in the world because in America, they're still playing. which they're still allowed to come over here, right? So it's the best players in the world. Switzerland beats Sweden today. It means they're in the quarterfinals. They're going to play against the loser of Russia and Finland. So that's looking really, really good. The half-pipe snowboard today. There's Pat Bugner said he had the run of his life. Unfortunately, he came against Shaun White, who is the best athlete of all time. But in generally, they're doing OK, apart from the curling. It's time now for the men's and women's curling individually, and they're off to a nightmare. They've lost all their matches so far, and it's fingers crossed they have to win the others to keep going.
OK, but given the fact that it's windy, given the fact that we're 5 days in, I mean, is scheduling the same every time we have an Olympics? You know, is our time just yet to come?
It is yet to come, and tomorrow.
Okay.
In a few hours' time, there is the men's downhill. It's the blue ribbon event. The good news is Switzerland has the favourite. So that's Beat Voigt, great athlete. The bad news is in the last 30 years, the favourites never won. So that's going to be a bit of a problem. However, if you look also, we have the women's giant slalom. 2 runs. The winner from Sochi, she's retired, Tina Maze. However, Lara Gut and her friends are on form. So that's good to look out for tomorrow. And there's a few other bits and pieces where Switzerland may pick up a medal in the women's biathlon. But apart from that, I'm speaking to various people in the Swiss team who are actually based out there, and they said, so far, no panic. However, if we don't have 2 medals tomorrow, the journalists are going to start getting onto it. People are going to say, what's going on? You said you're going to have 11 medals. You already got 1. So tomorrow, big, big day.
And do you think they are feeling the pressure? I mean, you say that, you know, if they don't come away with 2 medals tomorrow, then they will feel the pressure. I mean, well, I spoke to Isabel Derong's snowboarder before she left, and she was feeling in fact, she was feeling very positive about going out and very full of energy and full of optimism. Does that all change as soon as you step off the plane?
No, because they're actually quite fragmented. Isabel, she's lots of pictures of her yesterday at the snowboard, having a whale of a time. The downhill skiers, they'll be tensing up because it was cancelled a few days ago. Some of them never been before. But in general, we have the freestyle skiers who've arrived. They're doing massive buzzes over the internet at the moment because they had the thing where they went up the escalator that the whole world's seen. Sorry. But yeah, they're adding energy. They're going to be competing in the next few or 4 days. Most of we had the bobsleighs just about to start. So the buzz is still there. I think in 2 days' time, if the medals don't come, the questions are all going to be about not are you having a wonderful time, it's why. So fingers crossed, there's medals in the next couple of days, and it's all going to be happy days. But generally, the feeling from the athletes, they're not communicating massively, but those who are communicating are all happy days, and we're going to do our best, and it's a time of our lives.
OK, Matt Leighton, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
OK, well, it's another cold and blustery day, as Matt just said, in Pyeongchang, and it means that the 3rd Alpine event in 4 days has been cancelled. Now, following the rescheduling of both the men's downhill and women's giant slalom events on Sunday and Monday, on Wednesday, it's been the turn of the women's slalom due to high winds. CNN reporter Christina McFarlane went up to the Alpine Centre to get some reaction to this windy news.
Just when we thought it was safe to go back outside, wouldn't you know it, the wind has picked up here, and for the 3rd time this week, Alpine races have been cancelled in Pyeongchang. We're here in the Yongpyong Alpine Centre, and you can see probably the snow is falling, and there's a very strong, harsh crosswind here. And up above me, just about visible still, is that slalom run where races have just been postponed. All of this making life very difficult for the athletes.
You are gearing up for competition. I mean, you're activating every cell and molecule on your body and really ready for competing. And then it's postponed again. And that's frustrating.
It wasn't just any spectators who were hoping to see the women's alpine slalom here today, but the unified Korean team who are with me here. Let's see if we can ask them a question.
자제팀에 대해서 어떻게 생각하세요? 일단 남북이 공동으로 응원하는 거에 있어서 정말 좋은 기회라고 생각하고 평화통일로 가는 좋은 기회였으면 좋겠습니다. 팀이 들어갈 때 어떤 생각 드셨어요?
너무 뭉클하고 감동적이었어요.
정말요?
네. Proof that even though these events are being cancelled, there is one very unique group of fans who are relishing the experience. Christina McFarlane, CNN, Pyeongchang.
And we'll have more from the Olympics throughout the week here on the Swiss Pulse. Now, Scott Schumann is one of the world's best-known street-style photographers with over 1 million followers on Instagram and counting. He started his blog back in 2005 and has published several photo books. Now, this month, he's very busy taking pictures during the fashion weeks in New York, London, Paris and Milan. And Tanya Koenig caught up with him earlier.
I think my secret is to respect the audience, not to talk down to them, to challenge them, to share with them, to have an honesty. You know, 12, 13 years is a long time in digital time. And the only way that that can work and keep that energy going and that communication going, I think, is to respect the audience, you know, expect the best out of them and challenge them.
What is important when you take a picture? What do you consider?
What I try and do is figure out what the emotion is that I'm feeling about that image, why I'm taking the picture, you know. And to me, it's most important to try and communicate that emotion. You know, is it something that makes me happy? Is it sexy? Is it something that makes you mad? You know, to me, it's all about capturing the emotion. And so the best photographs are the ones where you look at it and you immediately know what I'm trying to communicate.
People know you as a street-style photographer, fashion, but you don't care so much about what people are wearing.
Right. Yeah, I don't really, you know, I've been in the fashion world for a long time. You know, I was in the fashion world for 15 years before I started the blog. And so I'm comfortable enough with my own fashion point of view that I don't have to rely on what the people are wearing. I know what I think looks stylish and cool and interesting, and so I don't really have to care, you know, what brands it is and all of that. And so it really opens the world to me. You know, I can shoot with the same conviction whether I'm in Milan or Mumbai or Peru, and the audience seems to respond to that. I think they like that. I think they like that surprise.
You're surprising because, as you just mentioned, you don't just shoot the rich and beautiful, but you go out there, you go to Africa, to India, to Latin America, to shoot all kinds of people.
They have a beautiful cultural history, a beautiful aesthetic, you know, a lot of times a beautiful cultural way that they dress. You know, when you think of Africa, there's prints and certain ways that they drape, and India has its own aesthetic vocabulary, and South America. So, and there's things that can be inspiring in all of that, and it's not just the way the clothes look, you know, it can be their way that they look at color. You know, the way they look at color in Africa is very different than India or Peru, or, you know, or South America or America. You know, the way people dress wearing sports clothes, you know, or athletic teams, you know, are very different. So for me, fashion and style is a lot more than just designer labels. You can get inspiration all over the place. I think I shoot my blog more like how a designer looks at the world.
Are stylish people more successful?
I don't know, because I don't really know these people, and it's not really important to me. I don't care about facts. I don't care what they're wearing. I don't care who they are. I like to be surprised. I like to find out that someone's wearing Zara or Uniqlo and looks great. And I think the audience likes that. I'm very lucky that I get to walk around the world and just imagine, you know, and dream a little bit and try and see the world in a dreamy, romantic, happy way. You know, there's a lot of war photographers. There's a lot of photographers and newspapers that tell you very depressing facts. I'm very lucky that I get to go out and try and shoot the world the way I would like to see it.
When did you realize that you were able to make a living out of your work as a photographer?
I think I realized that I had the potential of doing it somewhat early, only because I was able to get such a heartfelt reaction from the audience. You know, I was in business before, and I know that you can't make people like things. You can't make them respond. They either have to emotionally feel connected and have an attachment or a reaction, or they don't. And I could tell from the emails and messages I was getting, people were really responding to that. And so I had to figure out how to very gently keep doing what I was doing while still be able, I knew I had to be able to make money to keep it going. And so the real trick was being able to balance between being artistic, but still being able to keep money to keep my family fed, send my girls to college, all of that. And so it's always been a very subtle dance to try and blend those two things. My next book's going to be India, and so you have to make money to be able to do that project. I wanted to be able to have control over what and where I shot. And if you don't have some money saved, you're at the mercy of the next client. And I didn't want that, so I had to be smart and save my money, keep my overhead low, to offer myself creative freedom.
American Apparel, Net-a-Porter, Tiffany's, they all bought advertisement spots on your blog for lots of money, published books. What are the challenges at that stage?
The challenges are figuring out how to continue to communicate with the audience, you know, do the commercial work that you have to do, while still also maintaining artistic integrity. For me, it's always been very easy. You know, and a big part of that is keeping low overhead. You know, I don't have to pay a lot of people. I just have me and my girlfriend. We work together. And I think a lot of people feel that it says something about them and how successful they are if they have a lot of assistants and things and people answering to them. My dad had his own business, and he always said, you know, I learned from him, you know, keep your overhead low. Don't have a lot of people. Do as much by yourself as you can because it gives you freedom. And he was right. And and I don't want to deal with it. I just want to go out and take pictures. I don't want to have to worry about if so-and-so's having a bad day or if this person did that. So I built my business in a way that I can be very fluid. I mean, come on. What kind of life is better than being able to just go out on your bike on Wednesday and ride around on your bike all day and take pictures? So I've tried to be very smart with my business and business decisions that I can do that.
You've been a pioneer in bringing street photography to the internet, among the first. And meanwhile, there's so many other fashion bloggers. And I'm wondering, are people still hungry for fashion blogs?
Well, blogs have been replaced by Instagram. So everybody that was smart kind of still does their blog and has kind of moved on to Instagram and Twitter. There's so many more platforms than when I first started. You know, and so once I started seeing that shift happen, you know, I started to, you know, work more on Instagram. And so we've got 1 million followers on Instagram now, which is tricky. You know, it's hard when you're not a cute girl taking pictures of herself in a bikini to get 1 million followers.
That's great.
So it's tricky to get that while still maintaining the blog and Twitter and all of that. But, you know, you have to read the tea leaves, and the way you communicate on Instagram is different than the blog. You know, it's more in the moment. I shoot more with my camera. So you really have to learn each platform and how is the best way to communicate on that platform. You really tell the difference between companies who understand and don't. You know, a lot of companies still think that Instagram is just a one-directional thing, and they're just pushing their story. They don't understand the dialogue, and I think young brands, young people, the audience, see that, and it totally turns them off. That's why they don't have success. A lot of those brands don't have success on Instagram.
Is there still a lot to do within the fashion market?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the fashion brands are always trying to figure out how to communicate to the next audience, to the young audience, you know, their next consumer. For me, I still work a lot in fashion, but I'm also working a lot with those kind of periphery areas, you know, like hotels, lifestyle things, cars. A lot of that is what a lot of my work is now. And, you know, and maybe it's also because I've shifted, and with Instagram, I do more travel things. I do more different kind of things besides just fashion. So I think not only did they come to me, but I changed my work a little bit, evolved my work to make it easier for them to figure out how to work together. You know, one of the things I'm proud of is I think I'm one of the few kind of influencers or people on a blog or Instagram that has a very good mix between men and women. You know, most of them, yeah, it's very, well, you know, I've got a good, my background when I worked in fashion was all women's, so I know women's, you know, very well, women's market, women's fashion. And then, you know, being a guy, I just have a natural interest in men's fashion, I always have. And so I trust myself, you know, and I communicate what I really feel, and the audience reacts, you know, and they like that. And they like being able to see both. You know, women end up making a lot of the purchase decisions for menswear, and men love looking at women, and they all like looking at travel and cars and lifestyle. And so I think it's a fine balance between listening to the audience but not letting them direct you. You know, I'm still in control, at least of my audience in the background. I was on the site.
What is also very special about your blog or Instagram profile, it's not about you, you know, most of the, or many influencers, it's all about them.
Realistically, you're going to get tired of that person. But if I think I was smarter because if I'm always showing you new people, it always gives you a reason to come back and fall in love with a new person and wonder who that person is or where I'm going next. So to me, I thought I was kind of smart, you know, like saving myself and only showing myself in little bits so they don't get tired of me.
The fashion weeks are starting this February. New York, London, Milan, Paris, you know them all. Can you describe a little bit the vibe?
I love Italy, so I love Milan most. I love that it's a small city, that per capita everybody somehow seems involved in fashion or style or design. So I love that. Paris, I think, is the toughest. I think the city's going through a tough time right now. It's a very diverse kind of fashion. It just feels harder. The city feels hard. It's not, I don't know, Italy just feels so soft and fun and warm, and where Paris feels like work, it's hard. And New York, a lot of times for this season, is cold. And London, you never know. London is kind of up and down. One season will be great, next season very boring. So, but it's the curiosity that always brings everyone back.
So I did an interview with Michel Combe, the Swiss photographer. You know him, or you met him?
A little bit.
And in the interview, we talked about influencers and fashion weeks and all that. And he was telling me, well, before editors-in-chief, they worked 20 years and then they were in the front row, and now you have all those social media influencers in the front row and the editors-in-chief in the back. So he thinks something got twisted. And I was wondering what your take was on those changes.
The influencers did not replace editors-in-chiefs. Influencers maybe replaced stars. Used to be a lot more movie stars came to the show. So like the front row was this star and that person, that television person. So because most of them just maybe now have social media, their own social media, these stars, but for a long time they didn't. And so it was easier, they knew they would get more return if you put these social media people in the front row. They've also replaced more stylists. You know, when I started going to the shows, there were a lot more stylists that went to shows. But because a lot of them kind of felt that social media was below them, they didn't get on it, and they've lost a lot of their voice.
What do you see as your contribution to the fashion world?
Well, you know, I think I'm capturing a moment in time. I think I'm showing how fashion is really worn on the street, not only in New York, but all around the world. And I think, you know, unlike fashion photographers that shoot in a studio and create this idealized world, I'm showing the real world and what fashion really means to real people on the street. And so I think, that's something in a beautiful way, not just in a reporting way, but like still maybe with a little bit of a photographer's eye. And so I think that's the thing that's really unique about it.
Do people still turn you down?
If people don't turn you down, then you're probably not asking them much, so you need to ask more, but that's part of the thing. That never bothers me. It never keeps me from asking.
You never say, I'm the sartorial list and I got 1 million followers.
Well, no, that I definitely don't say. But I don't know, I've been doing this long enough. There's always another photograph around the corner, so I never get too worried if someone says no. I mean, no one's ever said no that I was so upset about, because after you do it a while, you realize there's another photograph around the corner. You just have to keep going. It's up to me to keep going, keep going, keep going.
Thanks so much, Scott Schulman, and all the best.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for Living Markets from me. Amanda's up next with the big picture, and tonight it's all about the business of love. Stay tuned for that. Bye-bye.
Let's talk tech. Do you want to see the latest gadgets? Understand where robotics will take us next? Find out more about the pioneers and their latest research? Join us on Tech Talk, where we'll be meeting the people behind the big ideas here in Switzerland and around the world, and finding out what it means for businesses, consumers, and the planet.
Tech Talk with Anna Maria Montero on CNN Money Switzerland.
Money is more than just currency. It is the fuel for how we live our lives. It connects us. It drives us. It buys us things. But it is more than that. It is who we are and what we want. Money isn't everything, but it is everywhere. And so are we. We are younger, we are richer, and we are smarter. We are money. CNN Money.
Connect the world with Becky Anderson.
It all starts here. Changing, fighting, creating, connecting. That's why we're here. We live here, we work here, we're from here, and we'll go wherever the story takes us.
I'm Becky Anderson in Tehran.
We are in Jerusalem. Real news that shapes our world. Exploring not just what's going on, but why.
I just want to press you on one further point.
Getting perspective on this region from this region. Places that many of us know, but few of us get to see. Observing countries on the move, still rooted in tradition. It all starts here, and that's why we're here, bringing you the world from our Middle Eastern hub.
Connect the world with Becky Anderson.
Romance is in the air this evening. It's Valentine's Day, and if you're in love or looking for love, the price of passion can be expensive. The business of love is booming, and on The Big Picture, we look at why technology is the new Cupid arrow.
I'm using Tinder because it's the most popular and I've used it before, but also because the other one that's most popular and that I know is Bumble, but I don't feel very comfortable in being the one that makes the first step in a conversation.
In the world of brand awareness, the word luxury is very often associated with high-end items, but it's a word that's overused, according to the man behind the successful Swiss watch brand Audemars Piguet. In the Newsmaker Hour, Francois-Henri Benahimias tells us managing growth at a time when the industry is suffering is down to a strong belief in the brand.
I do believe that we are just staying true to who we are, that we work on what we stand for every single day, that we want to redefine what true luxury means, because many people have used the word luxury for now over 10 years, and I think that word has been abused.
Okay.
And we do believe that Audemars Piguet, when we have to define the word luxury, it's like exclusivity. That defines luxury, exclusivity, scarcity.
You're tuned in to The Big Picture. I'm Amanda Kane. Good to have you here this Valentine's evening. Before we get down to the business of love, let's catch up with what's happening in and around the world. Now, the Swiss Federal Council has revealed a 2017 budget surplus of 2.8 billion francs this Valentine's Day. Extra cash, you would think, would be good, but not everyone is loving the news, especially those who fought hard to finalise the budget in the first place. The news also reignites the debate about the precision of the Swiss budget process, which tends to overestimate costs. On top of the 2.8 billion francs, the Swiss government has also separated a further 2 billion francs from the main results to deal with deferred liability, financial obligations required at a later date. Swiss bank UBS has closed the accounts of the World Chess Federation this Wednesday after its president was accused of dealings with the Syrian government. Russian millionaire Kirsan Ulumshinov has been on a US Treasury Department sanctions list since 2015, but denies any wrongdoing. The World Chess Federation, which is based in Lausanne, said that Mr. Ulumshinov had been told he was going to be removed from the list several times, which is why the bank allowed their accounts to remain open until now. Well, despite an upturn in sales for the watch industry here in Switzerland, Apple appears to be raising the bar even further by shipping more watches in the last quarter than the whole of the Swiss watch industry. According to Statista, Apple shipped 8 million of its smartwatches, in the fourth quarter of 2017, while all of the Swiss-based watch companies shipped 6.8 million watches. Meanwhile, more good news for Main Street is more bad news for Wall Street. US inflation is rising at a faster rate than expected. Fears of this happening prompted market volatility in recent weeks. CNN correspondent Christine Romance has more.
Brand new American economic data shows inflation grew 2.1% in the U.S. economy in January. That's the fastest in 5 months and more than economists expected. Now, a little bit of inflation in an economy is a good thing. Too much is not. And there's a great debate happening right now in American stock and bond markets about whether inflation will come back, whether the U.S. economy is so strong that there'll be too much inflation and potentially the Fed will have to raise interest rates aggressively. Again, a little bit of inflation is a good thing, and inflation still is below the Fed's targets. But this is a new landscape for many investors after years of barely there inflation and super low interest rates. I sat down with the Goldman Sachs CEO, Lloyd Blankfein, and we talked about just how strong the economy is with 4% unemployment and with small business confidence sky high. Here's what he said.
What could possibly go wrong?
Lloyd Blankfein?
I haven't felt this way. I haven't felt this good since 2006.
Yeah, that's not what I want to
hear. Yes, exactly.
Well,
that's true. You have to have that in mind.
Is there a risk of overheating here?
You know, of course there is. I would say the conditions are not just benign; they're very highly supportive of a good economy. The economy was good before. On top of it, we put in $1.5 trillion of tax cuts, $300 billion of spending over additional spending. Maybe even an infrastructure bill. Right. And so the sentiment is very positive. And interest rates are relatively low for where we are in the growth cycle. The issue could be potentially, I'm not saying this is certainly not my base case, but I'm in the business of worrying about small but adverse probabilities, is too much of a good thing. And I would say that the odds of a bad outcome have gone up.
Certainly, 2018 will be the year of wage growth in the U.S. It hasn't been around for so long in this recovery. Wages are starting to rise. Inflation is starting to pick up. Just how much? Stay tuned. Christine Romans, CNN, Washington.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is insisting this Wednesday that his coalition government is stable. It comes after police said that they have enough evidence to indict the Israeli leader on charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust in 2 corruption cases. The decision on whether to proceed with a trial now rests with the Attorney General. Netanyahu says the charges against him will end in nothing. The Israeli shekel suffered losses against the US dollar following the news. Reversing Brexit would be a disastrous mistake. That's what Boris Johnson said in a press conference Wednesday. Here he's giving reasons for following through with his government's plan to leave the European Union.
I fear that some people are becoming ever more determined to stop Brexit, to reverse the referendum vote of June the 23rd, 2016, and to frustrate the will of the people. I believe that would be a disastrous mistake that would lead to permanent and ineradicable.
Coming up, the road to love can sometimes be bumpy, even costly. And it's not just about sales of roses and chocolates. Later, we talk to experts about how technology such as apps are playing Cupid.
Excuse me, miss, you dropped this.
No, it's just a penny.
Just a penny? Just a penny? It all begins with the humble penny. Whether writing your first check or cashing big checks. To those at the top, making their mark, closing deals round the clock. On Quest Means Business, we know every penny has power. And it's not how many you have, it's what you do with them that counts. That's the marvel of money. Quest Means Business. What a profitable hour!
News programs are usually full of short stories that barely go beneath the surface. We give you the big picture every weekday evening at 7 p.m. The big picture goes deeper, looking at an issue from different angles and bringing you the guests that take time to speak, explain and elaborate. Our viewers get a deeper understanding of the day's issues and the context that underlies them. The big picture, weekdays from 7 to 8 p.m.
It's high energy and fast-paced, so buckle up as Front Seat brings you the latest news and views from the automotive world. Car developments, industry news, interviews with successful drivers, the latest trends and next-level innovation here in Switzerland and around the world. On Front Seat, we'll keep you on the right road.
Front Seat with Hannah Wise on CNN Money Switzerland.
CNN Money Switzerland is designed to flow through information. Our network provides a unique take on live, worldwide financial news. We are not your common news outlet. Instead, we act as a global catalyst of interconnected information. Our live studio provides you with a detailed and sharp analysis, predicting what is yet to come. From the heart of Europe, watch CNN Money Switzerland.
Like it or love it, today is Valentine's Day. And if you're one of the couples who are celebrating, then the chances are your bank balance will feel a bit lighter. From flowers to gifts to meals out, the cost of showing you care can soon add up. For shops and restaurants, though, it's a lucrative market, and the heat is on to make the most of it, especially for those wanting to impress a potential new mate. In Switzerland, though, take a look at this. Over a third of the adult population is a singleton. So are they all out on dates this evening, face-to-face or via their smartphone? Meeting each other virtually is the #1 way nowadays in Switzerland. Online connections top the charts. It's the biggest piece of the pie there, beating the amount of people who find true love at the bar, through common friends or at work. In fact, the cyber world is a hive of activity with over 1 million users, an eighth of the population, all on the market to find their match. Well, there's a lot of disappointment. There's a profit to make. Not necessarily a huge one, but still the business of introductions, be it a fun flirt or the pursuit of romance, turns an annual profit of over 40 million Swiss francs. In fact, the cliché conservative Swiss are the top spenders in Europe when it comes to online dating. Maybe no surprise when we consider the cost of living here compared to, say, the UK. Well, some lonely hearts might feel that potential suitors are thin on the ground. But variety and choice is not in short supply when it comes to dating solutions. In recent years, a cafe in Lausanne has been running a successful dating night where people come together to socialise. They then leave a handwritten note if they find the person of their dreams. Jill Espy explains.
One cafe in Lausanne is proposing an alternative to finding love online. Instead of exchanging messages in cyberspace, messages between those in search of a partner are traded here on paper. Every Tuesday for the past 15 years, the Bleu Lézard or Blue Lizard in English, has been filled with people looking for fun and maybe love. Messages are sent anonymously to anyone in the room. Unlike on the internet, fake profiles are a risk.
Did you get any messages?
Yes, I got from a guy, but it was a bit stupid. It was just a joke.
But serious messages writers are also here.
I come here because I want to find a true love.
For most of the guests, the message evening in Bleu des Arts is mainly a way to spend a nice moment with friends. However, some single people do use dating apps, and above all, Tinder.
I'm using Tinder because it's the most popular and I've used it before, but also because the other one that's most popular and that I know is Bumble, but I don't feel very comfortable in being the one that makes the first step in a conversation.
Charlotte is 26. She is working as a business manager. She came with a group of friends. Some are taken and some are free. She uses mainly free apps such as Tinder or Happen, and occasionally the messages in Bleu des Arts.
Why are you using those apps?
Because the market over here in Switzerland is not so good.
The man market?
The man market. So I put any chance in on my side.
The business side?
Exactly.
For the Bleu des Arts, the message evenings bring 2 times more customers than on regular weekdays.
It brings more people than another night in the week. But we don't make much more money because people don't come here to spend money, but just to have a good time and meet people.
And once in a while, the cafe receives a message from a couple who has met on one of those Tuesday evenings. Joel Espy, CNN Money, Switzerland.
That's, of course, just one glimpse into the dating scene in Switzerland. But who is your typical Swiss dater? And how do local dating platforms compare to global giants like Tinder? Here to give us more on that is Celia Schweyer, online dating expert at zuschweit.ch. They compare online dating platforms and apps from matchmaking to casual dating. Celia, last night a colleague of mine actually went to a physical dating evening. Are events where you meet physically face-to-face, like, you know, things like speed dating, still popular in Switzerland?
It is. Events like that happen all the time, especially in the cities. But it's not as popular as dating platforms and social apps and stuff like that.
And speaking of meeting virtually over the internet, for example, you do have a good overview. You've got the bird's eye view, in fact, of what happens in Switzerland when it comes to online dating. Now, I understand there's about 500 different sites, apps, variants that you can actually go on to try and find a mate. Maybe you can just break that down. What sort of services are available online?
Well, we differentiate between 3 major categories, which are like classic dating sites where you create a profile and just browse around looking for people you want to meet or get to know. Then there are online matchmaking services where you do like a personality test, which is mostly scientific, and get match suggestions based on these tests. And lastly, there are platforms for casual dating.
Maybe you can describe a typical user of sort of the more classical matchmaking services online. Who are they? How old are they? What are they looking like?
Well, it's really hard to generalize here. When you speak of matchmaking platforms, you will find really users who are seriously looking for a relationship here. So these aren't the 18-year-olds mostly, but maybe the end 20s, mid 30s, who are really trying to commit to a serious relationship and thus want to get suggestions based on their personality.
Are they truly looking for love, all of them, or are some just passing the time and having fun and coming up with quirky ways to answer the surveys, for example, to get a spot online?
Well, we were just talking about matchmaking, and these platforms mostly have like a higher subscription rate than the average dating flirting platform. So you can assume that matchmaking services are for more serious-looking people, whereas dating sites and social apps like Tinder or Swiss Friends are more likely people who are looking for flirts, just dating, getting to know new people, and stuff like that.
And is there an even split, would you say, between male and female users that are looking for a longer-term mate?
Well, it depends. You could maybe say that women are likely looking for more dates or getting to know new people, whereas we see that men have higher rates when it comes to really meeting people for erotic encounters.
And the price tag in terms of, you know, signing up to these websites, they vary in price, I assume?
They do, yes. Like matchmaking services are like the highest priced services. Other dating sites can be basically used for free, but some functionality can only be unlocked when you pay a subscription rate, which also varies between the services, so there's no average price.
And the more you spend to sign up to such a site, the more likely you are to find a mate?
Well, finding a mate is both offline and online. It depends on chemistry and everything, so there's no guarantee you will find a partner within 3 months if you sign up to this or that service. But of course, if you commit to online dating, you get to know more people within a shorter time, and maybe even than you would meet if you went to a bar.
And do you find that the same people are using many apps, many websites, or are they loyal to, say, one?
I think most singles are trying different websites. Like if most people have a smartphone these days, just an app like Tinder or a second one like Lavu is downloaded within no time, and they browse it, try it, and if they like it, they stick to it, and if not, they might try a different service too.
Is there anything unique about the dating scene in Switzerland as opposed to other countries in Europe or abroad?
Well, Switzerland has many rural areas, people who are looking for a partner online there. I would highly recommend to increase the search radius, not to only the village or the small city they live in, but also to 50 to 100 kilometers. And
do they always go onto a Swiss site, or can it also be a global app or site?
Of course, there are Swiss services like Swiss Friends, which is highly popular, but also European or German-speaking services are popular, like Love Scout or Parship. And
is there a surge in activity around this time of year, Celia?
During Valentine's, we can see from our site analytics that we have an increase in traffic, about 30% more than in the rest of the year. But it starts on the 13th because many platforms, also dating services, increase their media investments because they know singles on Valentine's Day, they might sign up more likely.
And just a question on profitability of the business. Do these apps, these sites really make money? I think 40 million Swiss francs, around that mark, was made in 2016, for example, for this matchmaking type of dating. Is that a profitable business? Are people making money at this?
It is profitable. Well, you just said 14. I think it's even closely to approaching 50 million Swiss francs.
Yes, 40.
Okay, yes, exactly. It's really approaching about 50 million, so it's a big business.
And any consolidation that you're seeing? Any smaller Swiss firms that are being bought by global firms, vice versa?
Right now, I'm sorry, no. Good enough.
Celia, well, thank you for joining us. It's been fun talking to you on the topic of dating in Switzerland, specifically online. Thanks very much. Well, if you're planning to go out for a romantic stroll this evening, let's take a look at what the weather's doing.
CNN Money Switzerland weather. We start with the webcam of the day. Here is an overview of the values recorded in the last hours. And now the radar animation of the last 90 minutes. Let's have a look to the forecast for this afternoon. And for tomorrow. Here's an overview for the next days in German-speaking Switzerland. In western Switzerland. And south of the Alps. Thanks for following us.
Try to be global and we try to be smart. What I want to hear are authentic voices of people who are passionate or intelligent, and that's the consistency that we try to get at.
Fareed Zakaria GPS.
Only from CNN Money Switzerland.
What drives Swiss leaders? What is the secret to their success? In The Newsmaker, we speak to successful CEOs, entrepreneurs, politicians, decision makers, opinion leaders, sports, and entertainment personalities. We find out what makes them tick in a special long-form interview that gets to the heart of who they are and where they are going. So pull up a chair and join us for The Newsmaker every weekday evening from 8 p.m. on CNN Money Switzerland.
Somebody to tell you their story, it's something I take really seriously, and it's not something you can just parachute in and ask somebody to open their heart to you. To peel away the layers to get to the heart of the person who you're telling a story about.
France will never give up against the terrorists.
And delve beneath the surface of what's happening. You can hear their story, and you're going to do their story justice.
Thank you.
You have to show yourself to them.
So right now they're hovering pretty low over this area that's extensively flooded.
CNN's the right place to tell their story.
Only from CNN Money Switzerland.
How do you turn your idea into a successful business in Switzerland? If you want to develop your business, have individual mentoring and coaching, optimize your business model, develop a marketing strategy, acquire new skills, learn how to network. Romandie Formation, business opportunities anywhere.
What drives the Swiss business world? What makes the economy tick? And how do companies react to the ever-changing challenges of the market? We've got our finger on the Swiss pulse. Well, we'll bring you the ups and downs, bulls and bears of the world of business, always asking what it means for you. The Swiss Pulse, weekdays from 6 to 9 p.m.
CNN Money Switzerland brings you the content you need, whenever, wherever you need it. Get the latest Swiss business and financial information on TV, on our website, cnnmoney.ch, or on your favorite social media platform. The best Swiss business news whenever and wherever you need it. Only from CNN Money Switzerland.
Tonight on The Big Picture, we're talking about the price of finding love in Switzerland. We've already talked about technology and how the virtual dating world is proving popular. But online dating may not be for everyone. And for those looking for a more focused search and with a bit more cash to spare, traditional matchmaking could be an option. Tria Tijmans is the founder of Success Match in Geneva. She took time out while on a trip to Panama to talk to me. She told me about how her services differ from regular online dating.
What an offline matchmaker offers is basically a personalized and confidential service. We offer an access to a different type of network that is perhaps a bit more selective. And we also offer a more discreet and confidential approach. Plus, and this is a very important aspect, we also provide more support. So basically what we're doing is we're helping setting people up for success.
And how big would you say the market is in Switzerland?
Well, I'm now particularly referring to our target group, which is highly educated, smart, interesting, and successful professionals. And for that, Switzerland is a particularly good market group. And there's actually, surprisingly enough, not that many players in the market at that level.
And clearly, it's an expensive service. It's not a cheap service. But how do you make your money ultimately? What are the other add-ons?
It's true that it is an investment to invest in our services. And we also believe that for our target group, investing in finding the right life partner is important to them. So we also particularly focus on that target group. We don't do add-ons like... So basically, what we do is our service encompasses support.
What sort of support? Do you mean like you help people prepare for the first meeting? What sort of support?
Yes, actually, it's not only who you meet, but it's also how you meet the other person. So I've been a matchmaker for over 13 years, and I'm an internationally awarded dating expert. So I've been doing this for a very long time, so I can spot very fast things that I feel people need a little bit of help with. It could be just a simple thing such as a mindset. We get feedback from the other side. So we organize all the first dates for our clients. And when we do a feedback after the first date, we can catch things and address them so that,
And who is your competition, actually? Is it the online sites and apps that you can be a part of?
We consider the online dating sector indirect competition because some of our clientele will use online dating and or have used online dating, but were either not satisfied with the results they got there. So it is indirect competition. What I've learned over the years is that basically our success also depends on the type of people we work with. So what I've done over the years is that we are actually more selective in who we work with because we are only as successful as our clients are. So therefore, we are quite selective with who we work with. So we spend quite a bit of time before we actually take on a client as a client, so that we make sure that people already have, a positive mindset, that there's not serious trust issues, that there are not any self-sabotaging behavior. Because if that were the case, then you can make a client, a lot of introductions, but it will never be the right person. So this is this part of actually spending time with the client and helping them, setting them for success, so that when you do make an introduction, it has all the chances to succeed.
And does language play a role for you, being in Switzerland where we speak 3, 4, many more languages?
Yeah, actually, I personally speak 5 languages, so that is definitely an advantage everywhere. I have to say that most of my clients are very, very multilingual, but they all speak fluently English. So the majority of my work is actually done in English, but I can speak about, sometimes people prefer to speak about very personal, deep things in their native language, and I can do that. That's not a problem.
And can you compare your business model and the success of it, say, to other countries?
Compared to other countries, in what sense?
Do you believe your business model is unique to Switzerland, or does it also work in other countries of the world?
No, the similar business model. I'm a spokesperson for the Matchmaking Institute, for the board of directors of the Matchmaking Institute, which is based in New York. So I have contacts all over the world with other renowned matchmakers, and there are some differences in business models and way we work, but I would say it's relatively similar.
And how did you get into this business of love?
Yeah, I used to be a headhunter, so my whole professional career is in human resources. And before I started my company, Success Match, almost 14 years ago, I was a headhunter. And there's a lot of comparisons between headhunting and matchmaking. And so I always worked with highly educated, strong, successful, smart people. And I discovered that many of them have basically everything in life. The only thing that was missing was a life partner, a person to share their life with. And so I saw there was a real need in the market, and there was not really a good offer to provide that support. And so that's when I decided, that this is what I wanted to do, help people find love.
And if I may ask, what is the price of finding true love, and what's entailed? What does it cover you to do?
Yes, so for Success Match, for the personalized matchmaking service, the cost starts at $15,000. That's for a standard search, and that's for 6 months.
You can find lots of business stories, the money of business, the business of money, on our website, cnnmoney.ch. So be sure to check that out. Lots of interesting interviews and content to be viewed there. But first, let's take a look at one of the financial stories this evening. It's making the headlines this Wednesday. Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein says he's feeling good about the US economy. However, he's also urging individual investors to proceed with caution. Blankfein says deficit spending risks like tax cuts and infrastructure could lead to too much of a good thing, resulting in quick interest rate hikes. Blankfein sat down with CNN's Christine Romans recently to discuss market volatility, interest rates and the deficit risks under the Trump administration.
What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
Lloyd Blankfein?
I haven't felt this way. I haven't felt this good since 2006.
Yeah, that's not what I want to hear.
Yes, exactly.
What a difference a decade makes. 2008, we were worried about the actual viability of the financial system. And today, we're talking about an economy that is roaring. Small business optimism that's higher than it's been in decades. The money is flowing. The taxes have been cut. Regulations are being cut. What could go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
What could go wrong, Lloyd Blankfein?
I haven't felt this way. I haven't felt this good since 2006.
Yeah, that's not what I want to hear.
Exactly.
Well,
that's true. You have to have that in mind.
Is there a risk of overheating here?
Of course there is. I would say the conditions are not just benign. They're very highly supportive of a good economy. The economy was good before. On top of it, we put in $1.5 trillion of tax cuts, $300 billion of spending over additional spending, maybe even an infrastructure bill.
Right.
And so the sentiment is very positive, and interest rates are relatively low for where we are in the growth cycle. The issue could be potentially, I'm not saying this is certainly not my base case, but I'm in the business of worrying about small but adverse probabilities, is too much of a good thing. If the economy starts to overheat and the Fed feels it's behind, the market's saying, gosh, could the Fed raise twice? Can they raise 3 times, maybe 4 times in this year? Well, guess what? I remember 1994 where the Fed was raising in between meetings, raised 75 basis points, 100 basis points at a pop. So that's possible, too, and that would be quite jarring to the economy.
$1.1 trillion deficits in a Republican president and a Republican administration. When Barack Obama did this, it was like the enemy of the economy.
Listen, I'm not making a statement here because both parties have taken their turn at stretching the budget deficit to new levels.
Right.
And by the way, these aren't crazy people. There's a point of view on the other side, which is that the economy, even at this level of growth, hasn't achieved its potential.
Right.
Some people argue with that, but then again, the economy has been growing faster and faster. We're close to 3% growth, and people there are saying it can go further. A lot of economists say they can't. If the economy does grow faster, there's the basic supply side. GDP goes up, earnings go up, tax revenue goes up, and maybe part of it will pay for itself. I think it's optimistic. It's not impossible. But I'm in the world of contingency planning for risks. And I would say that the odds of a bad outcome have gone up. Right. I wouldn't say that's my case. That's not my best case. But the idea that the Fed is behind, don't forget, all these deficits have to be paid for. So there are going to be more treasuries that are going to have to be issued than there were before. Right. And they have a competitor, the central bank, which has to get rid of its inventory of treasuries, and they're going to sell into the same kind of market to the same investors. Someone might stay there and say, gee, am I going to really lend to the U.S. government for 10 years at 2.8% when historically 10-year rate was much higher?
Right.
Maybe not for 10 years. And that's what, by the way, where the recent volatility
in the stock market
has come from, which is, my God, what is the potential for a kind of a shock. And it's not more likely than not, but the odds of it have gone up a bit.
So that stock market event of the past couple of weeks, was that a bubble? Did it pop? Or are we the beginning of something, a new reckoning that an era of higher interest rates is coming and that ultra low rates?
I would say the one
over?
funny thing, for someone who's been in the markets for 35, 36 years, that's really a surprise to me, is kind of the unanimity of view. How many pundits have you heard saying, buckle up, we're going to keep going, as opposed to people saying it's highly technical. You know something? We needed this. This is good.
Right.
The market needed this move down, and it's coming, and it's coming back. There's a lot of surprises in the world. Haven't we been living them?
Yeah.
Surprises. And so, I don't know, I can give you a scenario where maybe if everybody's a little bit too complacent, a little bit too optimistic. Not my base case, but that's what we have to reckon. Again, I'm in the world of not relying on forecasts. I'm in the world of contingency planning.
Right.
I have to make sure, not that I guess the future, but that I react more quickly to the present than other people.
What do you say to regular investors, people who aren't bankers at Goldman Sachs or don't have, are clients of Goldman Sachs, but regular Americans who are watching the stock market?
At this particular time, I would say, don't throw all in. People are saying, gosh, you should buy more at the lows. Yeah, if you're really rich and you have a lot of excess capital. But I wouldn't throw all in. I'd be planning for the contingency that this turns out to be a worse type that people are thinking. I wouldn't be more audacious today with the Fed on a raising rate, with a withdrawal of QE, with the budget deficit widening out.
Right.
I wouldn't say this is the time I would max out on my risk as opposed to a year ago.
Back now to the business of love this Valentine's Day. We heard earlier that clients of Success Match are willing to spend over 15,000 francs for a concierge premium search of a soulmate. You can't put a price on love, but on face value it would seem rather high. However, the business is said to be flourishing, but for most, apps and online do the trick when it comes to matchmaking or harmless flirting. And there are many in Switzerland, hundreds to be exact. But with international competition fierce, can the smaller local players survive? Joining me now to give her view is Ursula Kasper. She's Senior Research Consultant at marketagent.com in Zurich. Ursula, thanks for joining me. How serious do you think this online dating business really is? Is it more harmless flirting fun, or are people really looking for a long-term partner?
It really depends on the age group. I mean, if you're under 30, you're certainly not looking for a long-term partner, but you want to have fun. And that also reflects in what sites the young people use. But once you're over 30 and you're thinking about a more serious relationship, then you change the sites that you're using.
And in terms of those sites, I mean, how do they really determine their success? Is it down to the number of dates? Is it down to the number of marriages? How do they really determine if they've been successful or not?
Well, the serious platforms, they determine their success by the matches that they made. And they can also really state those matches. I guess with the flirting sites, it boils down to the normal figures and controlling numbers that any online site uses, the number of members they're having.
The longevity, I guess, of those matches are probably not covered.
Well, I think that's not the primary reason to really use them. It's if you're going on Tinder, well, there is a number of people, it's about 10% that use Tinder that still think that Tinder is really something to find a serious relationship. Most of the people would not think that.
Sometimes, yeah, it's distorted what the purpose is, right? But in terms of trends that you're seeing or spotting from the research you've made, can you maybe give us any sort of hint as to what the future of maybe the pursuit of the relationship is? Is anything changing that you can see?
A trend is hard to spot, but what we can see is that the online platform have established themselves well. I mean, when most of the platforms that are serious now, they have been founded around 2000. And at that time, people didn't really think that they could find a partner. Now, 50% of the people still think that they will probably not find a relationship on a platform. But those who've tried them, they are quite convinced.
Actually, a comment from one of the ladies that we interviewed at an event last night actually said, well, the male market's quite dry, so they're willing to spread their odds and have all options open to them, so they'll sign up to many apps.
Well, that's anyways the best way. I mean, that's how advertising works, you know. The more contacts you have and the more touch points, the better is your chance to really find somebody. I mean, one of the interesting things is that if you're looking at the single market in Switzerland, is about 30% of the Swiss population is single. That boils down to about 2 million. So you'd think there is a huge market that you can search for your match. But in essence, it's only about 10% that really actively look. Everyone else waits, looks, lies back and waits for luck to strike, as to say, and hence...
They're banking on the fairy tale, so to speak.
Yes, and they grow thin nowadays, don't they?
And so talking about this market, are sort of businesses in Switzerland successful when you look at them in, say, in comparison to the global giants like the Tinders?
It's difficult to say. There is platforms that are reasonably well known. There's only 2 left that are really Swiss. And as you stated earlier, there is lots of small niche players. They can be successful, but from a real financial viewpoint, I think they have a hard life.
So who's at the top of their game, would you say, in Switzerland right now?
In the German-speaking parts, it's Parship, Elite Partner. But these are companies that are international, that have an international backing, and they have a huge number of members. For the French-speaking part, it's Badoo that is more interesting. Also, Badoo is perceived in the French-speaking Switzerland totally different than in German-speaking Switzerland, and vice versa with Parship and Elite Partner.
And that point, as you mentioned earlier as well, that sometimes the purpose and goal of these apps are sometimes interpreted. So when you look at the variety of the apps and the online sites available, everything from just having fun, talking to each other, to really looking seriously for a partner, or are you seeing any gaps in the market, any potential areas of growth, something that could pop up?
That's difficult to say. I think that the market is pretty spread out and pretty well set up already. I mean, you have the adventure sites, you have the serious psychological profile partner sites, you have Tinder, you have everything already covered. What there is, but these are really the niche players, are the ones that cater for specific groups, like singles with dogs. I mean, don't laugh, because a single with a dog needs either a single that wants to have a dog or needs a dog that matches the dog. So you need to match the dogs as well.
But dogs not for everybody, I guess.
Yes, and also the dogs are not for all dogs. So hence that could be a market, but it's a small market and it will be...
It does feel like a lot's being covered, though, from sort of dating holidays to speed dating, many different things. But in terms of these apps, your research shows there's not much loyalty when it comes to the users. They sort of try one, maybe once or twice, they forget about it, maybe try another one. Maybe tell me a bit more about that.
Sure. I mean, if they start off with a platform, usually it's a free platform. They will have to try what's going on, what's working, what are the people like on the platform. Then they might not find what they're looking for, so they try another platform. And especially when they start getting more serious, they're also willing maybe to put a little bit of money into it. But a majority of the people is not willing to pay. So,
and what can companies really do to really try to retain their users? Is there anything they can...
Do you want to retain your users as a partner platform? You want to lose them. You want to lose them pairwise.
You need to focus more on attracting new ones, right?
Exactly, exactly. But in essence, I mean, this is a nasty thing to say, but with high divorce rates, you know, everyone is potentially a new client. So they just need to uphold their trustworthiness, because that's one of the key points for everyone, even for the free platforms or for the low-cost platforms. People need to be sure that their data is safe, that the company is trustworthy, that the profiles are not fake, that there's real people there.
Trust is an important point because, of course, it's an opportunity to reinvent yourself and be whoever you want to be on some of these platforms.
Absolutely.
So trust is very important. I mean, do you think there could be a trend reversal in the future where we go back to the more traditional way of mixing and socialising and meeting each other?
Not immediately, I think, because the life is getting more and more digital. And, I mean, yes, with getting more mature, people get a little offline again and try to meet people again. But I think in general, I can't see it coming in the next few years, really. It's probably more and more digital. You have to consciously really offline yourself from the digital.
It's probably not out of scope to be on a date physically and probably be on another one on your app.
Exactly.
Right, on your smartphone. Multitasking.
That's a bit sad.
I mean, but in terms of taboo, I mean, most people are quite open to the fact that they've met online, would you say?
Meanwhile, it's acceptable. It doesn't have the stigma anymore that you're the total loser because you can't find somebody in real life. However, people who have never used the platform still do think that you have to be kind of sad to go online, which is absolutely not true anymore.
Yes, absolutely not. Now, I have to ask you, did you get a Valentine today?
I got a birthday cake today.
Well, given that you have a birthday today, as well as it being Valentine's Day, this is for you. If ladies can't give other ladies a little gift on Valentine's Day, then where are we? Thank you, Ursula. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Now we're going to catch up with some entertainment news now, and it's from law sorts to larceny. Today's Hollywood Minute is all about the law making and breaking it. CNN reporter David Daniel has the details.
Taylor Swift beats the rap. Two songwriters sued the singer in September, claiming her hit Shake It Off infringed their 2001 song Players Gon' Play, recorded by 3LW. But a judge has ruled the short phrases players gonna play and haters gonna hate lack the originality and creativity required for copyright protection. Tessa Thompson is turning to crime. The actress known for Thor Ragnarok, Creed, and the upcoming Annihilation is set to play Doris Payne, who pulled off jewel heists around the world for more than half a century. Thompson will also produce the action drama.
Bill, get down on the ground!
Ready for more thievery? The team behind Den of Thieves is reuniting for a sequel. This time out, Gerard Butler's Big Nick O'Brien will go from Los Angeles to Europe, where robbers are targeting the world's largest diamond exchange. Thieves do like shiny objects. In Hollywood, I'm David Daniel.
CNN Money Switzerland business weather, starting with Europe. Next step, Africa and the Middle East. Southeast Asia. And now Australia and Oceania. Let's go to North America. We end our trip with South America. CNN Money Switzerland accompanies you all over the world.
That's it from the business of love this hour, but still more to come. Hannah Wise is here with the Newsmaker Hour. But first, before we get there, did you get a Valentine's today?
I did get a Valentine's, and I'm actually really proud of myself. For the first time in 3 years, I remembered myself. So my husband got a card today.
Oh, well, you did better than I
you?
did. No, mine didn't get one. I got one, but I really feel that it was more going through the motions.
Yes,
of having to do it, but not
mean.
really feeling it.
Well, that's why I haven't done it for 3 years. And then actually I felt so guilty that I actually remembered this year, but I see we have little supplies here that maybe you could take a rose home to your husband tonight.
Hannah, definitely.
Thank you very much.
Chocolate and roses, plentiful. And what have you got coming up in the next hour?
OK, well, you know, the word luxury is often associated with things that are high-end.
Yeah, the sort of gift you really want on
Yes,
Valentine's
exactly.
Day.
Well, actually, the guest tonight, he is the man behind the successful Swiss watch brand Audemars Piguet, and he's saying that we overuse that word. OK? He's actually got a lot to say, this guy. His name, if I can remember where it's quite long, and Francois-Henri Benamias. He is telling us all about his Swiss watch industry. He's kind of moving into the second-hand watch industry, and he's got a love of the West End. He loves Broadway.
Oh, so it sounds like
so it's a real insight to the man.
Luxury may become affordable, maybe. Lovely.
I don't know. Well, we'll have to wait and see, because it's very interesting.
Very good. We'll have a fun hour, and thank you. Thank you to you also for watching this hour. It was The Big Picture, of course, here on the Swiss Pulse. We're live until 9 p.m, so don't go away.
Money is more than just currency. It is the fuel for how we live our lives. It connects us. It drives us. It buys us things. But it is more than that. It is who we are and what we want.
Oh,
Money isn't everything, but it is everywhere. And so are we. We are younger, we are richer, and we are smarter. We are money. CNN Money.
CNN Money Switzerland brings you the content you need, whenever, wherever you need it. On our website, cnnmoney.ch, or on your favorite social media platform. Only from CNN Money Switzerland.
I'm seeing Shanghai the old-fashioned way. CNN Business Traveler in China. By the end of the next decade, the largest aviation market in the world. Are you ready for that? Businesses are spreading their wings. China Eastern, keeping the Chinese skies safe. New ways to earn miles. Are you still a mileage geek? Yes, always. And bridging culture gaps. Don't ask. On the next CNN Business Traveler.
CNN Money Switzerland is designed to flow through information. Our network provides a unique take on live, worldwide financial news. We are not your common news outlet. Instead, we act as a global catalyst of interconnected information. Our live studio provides you with a detailed and sharp analysis, predicting what is yet to come. From the heart of Europe, watch CNN Money Switzerland.
In the world of brand awareness, the word luxury is very often associated with high-end items, but it's a word that's overused, according to the man behind the successful Swiss watch brand Audemars Piguet. He tells us managing growth at a time when the industry is suffering is down to a strong belief in their brand.
I do believe that we are just staying true to who we are, that we work on what we stand for every single day, that we want to redefine what true luxury means, because many people have used the word luxury for now over 10 years, and I think that word has been abused.
Okay.
And we do believe that Audemars Piguet, when we have to define the word luxury, it's like exclusivity. That defines luxury, exclusivity, scarcity.
And losses of nearly £1 billion Swiss francs for Credit Suisse, but earnings out this Wednesday satisfy investors as the share price rises. We're breaking down the company's 3-year strategy later in the hour. Good evening, I'm Hannah Wise, and you are watching The Newsmaker. Good evening and welcome to the Newsmaker Hour. I'm Hannah Wise and we'll start tonight with a roundup of the main news headlines. The Swiss Federal Council has revealed a 2017 budget surplus of 2.8 billion Swiss francs this Valentine's Day. But not everyone is loving the news, especially those who fought hard to finalise the budget in the first place. The news also reignites the debate about the precision of the Swiss budget process, which tends to overestimate costs. On top of the 2.8 billion Swiss francs, the government has also separated a further 2 billion francs from the main results to deal with deferred liability. Swiss bank UBS has closed the accounts of the World Chess Federation this Wednesday after its president was accused of dealings with the Syrian government. Russian millionaire Kirsan Ilumshinov has been on a US Treasury Department sanctions list since 2015, but denies any wrongdoing. The World Chess Federation, which is based in Lausanne, said that Mr. Ilumshinov had been told he was going to be removed from the list several times, which is why the bank allowed their accounts to remain open until now. Despite an upturn in sales for the watch industry in Switzerland, Apple appears to be raising the bar even further by shipping more watches in the last quarter than the whole of the Swiss watch industry. According to Statista, Apple shipped 8 million of its smartwatches in the fourth quarter of 2017, while all of the Swiss-based watch companies combined shipped 6.8 million watches. More good news from Main Street is more bad news for Wall Street. US inflation is rising at a faster rate than expected. Fears of this happening prompted market volatility in recent weeks. CNN's Christine Romance has more.
Brand new American economic data shows inflation grew 2.1% in the U.S. economy in January. That's the fastest in 5 months and more than economists expected. Now, a little bit of inflation in an economy is a good thing. Too much is not. And there's a great debate happening right now in American stock and bond markets about whether inflation will come back, whether the U.S. economy is so strong that there'll be too much inflation and potentially the Fed will have to raise interest rates aggressively. Again, a little bit of inflation is a good thing, and inflation still is below the Fed's targets. But this is a new landscape for many investors after years of barely there inflation and super low interest rates. I sat down with the Goldman Sachs CEO, Lloyd Blankfein, and we talked about just how strong the economy is with 4% unemployment and with small business confidence sky high. Here's what he said.
What could possibly go wrong?
Lloyd Blankfein?
I haven't felt this way. I haven't felt this good since 2006.
Yeah, that's not what I want to
exactly.
hear.
Well, that's true. You have to have that in mind.
Is there a risk of overheating here?
You know, of course there is. I would say the conditions are not just benign, they're very highly supportive of a good economy. The economy was good before. On top of it, we put in $1.5 trillion of tax cuts, $300 billion of spending over additional spending, maybe even an infrastructure bill.
Right.
And so the sentiment is very positive, and interest rates are relatively low for where we are in the growth cycle. The issue could be potentially, I'm not saying this is certainly not my base case, but I'm in the business of worrying about small but adverse probabilities, is too much of a good thing. And I would say that the odds of a bad outcome have gone up.
Certainly, 2018 will be the year of wage growth in the U.S. It hasn't been around for so long in this recovery. Wages are starting to rise. Inflation is starting to pick up. Just how much? Stay tuned. Christine Romans, CNN, Washington.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is insisting this Wednesday that his coalition government is stable. It comes after police said that they have enough evidence to indict the Israeli leader on charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust in 2 corruption cases. The decision on whether to proceed with a trial now rests with the Attorney General. Netanyahu says the charge against him will end in nothing. The Israeli shekel suffered losses, though, against the US dollar following that news. Coming up on the story of the Swiss watchmaker who saw double revenues despite closing stores. We talked to the CEO of famous Audemars Piguet brand. He tells CNN Money Switzerland about the strategic changes the company has made during a difficult time for the industry.
Let's talk tech. Do you want to see the latest gadgets? Understand where robotics will take us next? Find out more about the pioneers and their latest research? Join us on Tech Talk, where we'll be meeting the people behind the big ideas here in Switzerland and around the world, and finding out what it means for businesses, consumers, and the planet.
Tech Talk with Anna Maria Montero on CNN Money Switzerland.
How do you turn your idea into a successful business in Switzerland? If you want to develop your business, have individual mentoring and coaching, optimize your business model, develop a marketing strategy, acquire new skills, learn how to network. Autrement dit, formation, business opportunities anywhere.
Excuse me, miss, you dropped this.
No, it's just a penny.
Just a penny? Just a penny? It all begins with the humble penny. Whether writing your first check or cashing big checks. To those at the top, making their mark, closing deals round the clock. On Quest Means Business, we know every penny has power. And it's not how many you have. It's what you do with them that counts. That's the marvel of money. Quest Means Business. What a profitable hour!
Only from CNN Money Switzerland.
I've spent all of my career in the field, and I think that informs who I want to talk to, but more importantly, who wants to and who accepts to talk to me. And I hope that what I bring to the table is a rigorous search for the truth and a rigorous determination and an effort to hold power accountable.
Amanpour.
The Swiss Pulse delivers you the most important global and Swiss business and financial news, connecting Switzerland to the world. Tune in every weekday from 6 p.m. or find us on the go on our website. Welcome back. You're watching the Newsmaker Hour here on the Swiss Pulse. Now, after a multi-year slump, Switzerland's 400-year-old watchmaking industry is making a comeback. Well, last year's export numbers are still a far cry from the double digits of just a decade ago. Optimism prevails, opening the doors to new strategies. Enter François-Henri Benamias, CEO of Audemars Piguet. The company is one of an increasingly rare breed of large, independent luxury watchmakers. They produce around 40,000 timepieces a year at an average price of 25,000 Swiss francs each. The high-end Swiss maker plans to open standalone stores to buy and sell second-hand timepieces, becoming the first big brand to tap into the fast-growing market for pre-owned premium watches. Ana Maria Montero recently sat down with Benamias at his office in the Brazos to talk about these next steps and the secret of Audemars Piguet's success.
So you're one of the few company heads in the industry that is having to manage growth rather than curb sales. What is Audemars Piguet doing differently? What are you doing differently?
I don't think we are doing something which is completely exceptional. I do believe that we are just staying true to who we are, that we work on what we stand for every single day, that we want to redefine what true luxury means, because many people have used the word luxury for now over 10 years, and I think that word has been abused.
Okay.
And we do believe that Audemars Piguet, when we have to define the word luxury, it's like exclusivity. That defines luxury, exclusivity, scarcity. You cannot find everything at every single corner of a street, everywhere on the planet. So what we decided to do a few years ago, it's actually to do better what we are doing right and to kill what was wrong.
What was wrong?
Few things.
Okay.
But we're not going to talk about what was wrong because I want to focus
well, let's talk about what was right.
What was right. What was right is we had a great collection, but too many references. So very difficult when you have too many references. Then you have difficulties with production. You are not always on time. Sometimes you are delayed for whatever reasons. And then you miss opportunities because you start to promote a watch and then you deliver only 6 months, 9 months later, and you miss a train. People have already moved on to something else. Or being overexposed, too many points of sales on the planet. And what we've seen is over the last 6 years, we reduced by almost twice the amount of doors in the world, and at the same time, we almost doubled our revenue. So it shows that we were right in terms of concentrating our strength with our top partners, the best efforts, the ones who are really playing the game of the brand. We've opened boutiques, and it has been proven right so far, knock on wood.
Have you had to increase production then, or?
A small one. I would say that we were in 2012 at 35,000 watches. We are now at 40,000 watches. So it's not like we went from 35 to 60,000. And I've announced when we reach 40,000 in 2015 that we will not increase production for 5 years. So 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, it will be only 40,000 watches.
So it begs the question, do you adjust the price?
No.
Or how does that work? Is that like a secret?
No, it's very simple. If you are a retailer, and I sell you a watch that retails for 100,000. I'm going to invoice you the watch, to make it simple, at 50,000. So my revenue is 50,000. If I now sell the watch in our own stores, I sell the watch at 100,000. So I'm grabbing that margin that we didn't have the day before. So I'm not saying that this is everything that we've been doing, but overall, our growth has been on consolidating our sales towards the end client. When basically before we are wholesalers and we are becoming more and more retailers.
So it's not necessarily a price sensitivity issue
at all.
Is luxury a question of price?
It depends. First of all, I never want to attach money and luxury because luxury is, first of all, a reflect of an emotion, no matter what it is, whether you are dealing with haute couture, with art, cars, plane, boats, anything. When you touch a certain level of wealth, it's not you don't wake up every day saying, oh, so I'm going to pay attention, the next watch for Audemars Piguet is coming out. No, you're exposed to things. And depending on at what point it does touch you, if you're on vacation, if you're in a good mood, in a buying mode or something, and you're exposed to something that touches a part of your brain, you might say, I'm in. Money doesn't really matter at that stage. Sure, it's important. We cannot go completely crazy, but true luxury, money is third or fourth level in terms of what you want.
How do you manage inventory? Because that's another topic that comes up always among
That's my secret
watches.
weapon.
Oh.
Because for the last 20 plus years, I've been working on inventory almost not every day of my life, but almost for sure every week of my life. And when I say working on the inventory, I'm a freak. So, no, for real. I look at
Excel sheets, or what are we talking about?
Excel, but my brain as well, in a sense that I look at every single cell, every single move for every single watch that we make. So by studying the inventory on a regular basis, I can gather informations, I can understand businesses and see who is supporting us, who is not supporting us, what reference does work better than the other, what's a turn, how much money people are making on the watches. And these are all these mathematical formula that actually make me come back to the office on Mondays and say, do this, do that, blah, blah, blah. And they say, we don't understand. So I explain again and again and again to teach them, because hopefully I want them to do this on their own now, to be able to do the whole thing.
Let's talk about the Chinese market.
Mm-hmm.
What is the standing of Audemars Piguet there? What's happening?
Unlike many other watch companies, we've always made a point of not putting all our eggs in the same basket. So when everybody was talking about China, we said, okay, China is great, no doubt, and it's going to be more and more important, but we cannot just take things away from the US, take things away from Italy, from Germany, from Singapore, from Japan, just to focus everything on China. And since we have a very limited production, I go back to the same thing. It's only 40,000 watches. If I want to add 2,000 watches more in China, I have to take them from somebody else. Why? That's not the point. The point today, our sales are extremely well spread across the globe, and that also helped us big time over the last 6 years to keep growing the business. Because for the brands that took the Chinese bet and the Chinese bet alone, they got hurt. Because 2-3 years ago, sales started to go down, and there was no opportunities anywhere else. So we are actually very well, as I said, spread in terms of our sales. We're in 74 countries, and we are very happy the way it is. When we'll re-increase production, obviously, some more watches will go to the Chinese market. And actually, Chinese are also buying outside of China in many, many places. But I don't want to ever look at any country, by the way, not China in particular, any country saying, we're going to focus only on that one.
Earlier, I mentioned this whole retail vintage market that you are getting into. This is a new step for the company.
Sure.
What is the vision?
Vision is, today, when you are a brand and a serious one, there is no way you can let anything happen out of your control, typically. If I make an analogy with the car industry, cars this has been existing forever. You buy a new car, now you want to trade your car to get a new one, but you have your old car and you want to do something with it. And car companies are taking your old car back. Why shouldn't we be able to do the same thing with watches? So today, the second-hand, the pre-owned market is dealt with outsiders, people who are not the Audemars Piguet people on the planet. Whether they do a great job or a bad job is irrelevant. It's not in our radar. And we have to control that as well. Why? Because the second or the pre-owned market gives you the real value of what your brand stands for. So if you buy a new watch and then 6 months later, the value goes extremely down or up, you want to know what's happening. You want to be in control of your own destiny. You cannot leave this to the outsiders anymore. So we're going to start in 2018. We're going to do some tests in 3 or 4 different countries. And we're going to see the way it works. I'm not saying it's going to be 360, everything, every single country, every single store is going to do it. We are learning. The good news, we are independent. We're not a public company, so we can actually do it at the pace we want. We want to do it right, and we'll make all the efforts to do it right.
Will you try it in Switzerland as well?
Sure.
Pilot countries? Or?
Sure. Switzerland, US, Japan, maybe Singapore.
Who is the watch for? The first market, first buyers.
So first of all, our number one market in the world is the United States. Okay, that's important. Now, who is our buyer? I don't like that question for one reason.
Oh.
Because I don't like putting people in boxes. Why?
Agreed.
And why? Because I've been put in boxes. People have been wanting to put me in boxes my entire youth. And I don't have a single diploma, I didn't graduate at anything, but I still manage today almost $1 billion Swiss franc revenue company. I've got 1,600 employees, and I'm outside the box. So I want to also think that our clients could feel that way. If I start to say, yes, the Audemars Piguet client is between 35 and 55, lives do this, does, wrong. And the best proof of that is we've seen a complete change over the last 10 years of our clientele. Our clientele is getting younger every year. During the SIHH, a few weeks ago, I had a 16-year-old coming to me just because he wanted to take a picture with me. I said, but I'm not a star. He said, no, but you're my star. And he was wearing Audemars Piguet, which means that he knocked on his dad's door several times, said, Dad, my first watch has to be Audemars Piguet. The dad was there. He was the one taking the picture. And at the end, he said, you know what? You made my son his week. Now it's going to talk about this with everybody. And the fact that I spent my 2 minutes with a kid for him, maybe he's going to post a picture on Facebook. He's going to talk about it with a few of his friends. And then a few of his friends might say, you know what? I like that brand as well. It's cool. I want this as well. My daughter, who never wore a watch in her life, I've got a 22 years old, never wore a single watch in her life, lives in California. I said, when you turn 20, you have to come here because I want to buy you a watch for your 20th birthday. But it's not going to be a surprise, I'm telling you, but I want you to tour the factory and experience what Audemars Piguet is. And if you like it, I'll give you the watch. If you don't like it, I won't force you to buy a watch because I'm not going to be that dad. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so came here, 2 hours, she came back to say, what, Dad, it's the first time in my life I see something that will last. I say, explain. And the explanation said, everything we have, we throw away. A new phone, there is an iPhone 5, the iPhone 6 comes, 5 is in the garbage. Who keeps today the Motorola or the Ericsson, which I had when I was younger? Nobody. So even the way they eat, the way they order food at night, everything, it's fast, it's quick. So everything, it's in and out very quickly. She said, no, you know what? I saw something that lasts. So she got the watch, flew back to California. In the following 4 months of her sharing the story of what she saw here, 4 of her friends got one. So stay with me. 40,000 watches. My daughter, 39,999 minus 4, 39,995 to go. I managed to capture 4 new clients, young women that would have never been exposed to Audemars Piguet, except for my daughter. So every day there are opportunities to find a type of new clientele, and it would be very awkward for me to say and to define exactly what the true profile is.
And to reach these millennials you mentioned earlier, you would also use social media and digital platforms to
sure,
reach them.
But I cannot say that it's
and word of mouth, clearly.
More. This is our number one thing. Our true best salesperson and selling tools today are our clients. Because social media, okay, fine. So everybody talks about it. Great. And we're very pleased to say millions of people. Over 1 million people following us on Instagram, 8 million visitors on our website. Great. Yoo-hoo!
Those are big numbers.
Big numbers, but at the end, what is the true relevance of it? We sell 40,000 watches. Our number one market is the United States. How many watches we sell in the US, you think? It's our number one market.
If it's your number one market, I guess you would sell at least 30% of your watches.
So 12,000.
That doesn't sound like a lot. No more than that.
No,
that
a
much
lot
bigger?
less. A lot less. A lot less.
5,000 watches?
I don't know,
okay.
but it's a lot less than your 12,000.
Wow. Okay.
Which means that at the end, the number of millions or the hundreds of thousands of people that will look, where it does really matter. What does matter is, I go back to that kid of my daughter. Because that kid took a picture and was very happy, he's going to talk about the experience to some of his friends. Maybe via Facebook. Okay, maybe. That's fine. But I'm going to get him because he spoke to one of his buddies. My daughter spoke to her friends about the experience. So good. I cannot say great today. We'll see.
Normally very optimistic, I know, but with this you are semi-optimistic?
We learn.
We learn.
There is not a mathematical formula. If there was, by the way, everybody would win.
This is right.
We don't see that at all. So we have to be careful. Chasing millions doesn't always, it's not always the right thing to do. Not for a brand like ours.
And what about e-commerce? I mean, are we ever going to see
sure.
or be able to buy an Audemars Piguet online?
Oui. We will.
That's also in the plans.
Sure. But you're not going to go online, put your watch in a basket and check out. No. No. It's not going to work that way. You got to go online. Online is a
How's it going to work?
Is a mean. It's not an end. We're going to use online as a tool. By the way, today, if I look at our sales in our store in New York in 2017, we did over 28 million in our store in New York last year.
Okay.
Okay? Half of the sales were done on the phone. That's online. That's the old online.
Yes, that's the old online. Yes.
Meaning people call the store and trust the brand enough to say, I know exactly what I want. Please give me your wiring instructions. I'm going to wire the money. I'm going to ship the watch to wherever I am in the US. Okay? So if we sell online, and we will sell online, the goal will be you got to go online, and at one point we got to start to interact with you. Because who knows, maybe tomorrow we're going to deliver the watch to your place. Maybe tomorrow, because you chose one, we're going to come with 4 or 5 others that you might also want to see without having the pressure to buy them, but just because we want to offer a great experience. Who knows what the retail is going to become?
So it's not going to show up in a cardboard box at my front door.
Not really. Not really.
I wouldn't. So tell me, is the watch slump over?
You tell me.
Well, export numbers show that they're going up. The consensus seems to be, among analysts, that it is over. What's your feeling?
My feeling is that we are very, very far from having reached our true potential. What do we use as a percentage? As a percentage to say the ultra wealthy on the planet? What do we give as a percentage always?
Like 1.
The 1%. Mm-hmm. You know what? I'm not going to give you 1%. I'm not going to give you 0.5%. I'm going to give you 0.25%. Okay? Now we are talking about 20 million people on the planet. Okay? If I take all the watch companies in 2017 that made watches, and I'm excluding the big ones, brands who are making watches in hundreds of thousands. Okay? I'm taking some other brands who start at 5, 6, 7,000 retail. Last year, we all made together, all of us together, between 5 and 600,000 watches. 5 and 600,000 watches. Worst case, we are dealing with 20 million potential buyers. And you're really asking me if I see that it's going to be down or up? In terms of true probabilities, I think we should be okay.
Well, then what has everybody been so worried about?
Because, again, we go back to what I was saying at the beginning. Are we still touching the emotion part in our brains that make people say, oh, I want watches? Or the other question is, have we really exposed the savoir-faire of the watchmaking industry to the 20 million souls? Not yet. We still have a long, long way to go. There are so many places where people don't even know about high-end watchmaking. If I stop 1,000 people belonging to my 20 million in the street, maybe only 50 would have been exposed to watches. So if I take now the other 950 and I bring them here at Audemars Piguet in the Vallée de Joux to show them what Audemars Piguet stands for and what high-end watchmaking means, maybe I'm convinced 10, 20 or 30 of them. And that's the way we should look at the picture. We are far from having reached our true potential. We can do so much more.
So, smartwatches. I've heard you say that going to smartwatches would be like Audemars Piguet losing their soul. Do you still feel this way, or do you feel like it's inevitable?
I still completely I feel that way completely, 100%. There is no way we're going to do that. The day we start to put the new technology in our mechanisms, then we're dead. And for many reasons. One, we'll always be behind. There are big monsters not in a bad way, but big companies will always do this better than us anyway. And what people want from us is to stay true to who we are and still delivering that experience of high-end watchmaking that was and has been existing for hundreds of years. That's what they want. The analogy I always make is with the 3-star Michelin restaurants in the world. A 3-star Michelin restaurant in the world has on average 50 to 60 seats. Okay? If that restaurant tomorrow wants to do 500, it's dead. It's not the same exclusivity. We go back to the same
Here
thing.
we go back to this, yes,
exclusivity,
yeah.
craft. You cannot cook for 500 people the way you got to cook for 60. It's impossible. Same thing for our watchmakers. The goal is not to make 100,000 of watches. It's to make 40,000, maybe one day 42,000, 45,000, 50,000 maybe one day. That's it. So we have to respect what our watchmakers have been working on for over 140 years and stay true to who we are. Now, I'm not saying that one day we won't see something maybe in straps that are on the watches.
Huh.
Which is a completely different story.
Okay.
No, now I would have to kill you. So don't.
And I know you have plenty of weapons around.
So we'll see.
All right, so for our next meeting. Now, Swiss made this regulation, turns about a year now. This is maybe something more relevant for luxury watches, or, okay, you're looking at me
Let's put it
funny.
this way, at 60%, I still do believe that a lot of people can play bad games. And I think it's about time to, some major names are actually bringing back production here in Switzerland. It's extremely important that we can also deliver to the clients, the buyers, that we are true to what we say, that the message is real. We're not saying, oh, we are Swiss-made when a lot of the
Case
components
is made over here and
exactly.
the straps over here. And
Sure.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that ratio going up. If not, there is no reason anymore. Then it becomes nobody is going to trust that. And at that level of prices, you need the trust of people.
Yes, I mean, I would assume people really, there's so much value in the Swiss brand that you pay for anything that says, "Baf, made in Switzerland."
The good news,
yes,
the millennials will ask the brands for more transparency than ever. They are asking us every day to open the curtains. What's behind the curtain? Are you really true to what?
And this is a big question for the watchmaking industry, right?
time.
You guys are big on your curtains.
I cannot wait. I cannot wait.
I can imagine. You're like
we
the
are
wizard.
willing to open the curtain.
Yeah?
Some others will be a different story. Time will come.
Secrecy. I mean, secrecy is also a big discussion in the valley
to a
here.
certain point. Okay. To a certain point. And we owe to our clients transparency. We owe to tell them sometime when we're wrong, when we've made mistakes, when we really failed at something. It's okay. We won't always be perfect, but we have to be real.
And my experience has been, I haven't met a lot of women in the watchmaking industry, especially in upper management. Is this a man's world?
Still today, yes, too much. Yes, clearly.
That's my experience. But
Clear,
from the
you're
inside,
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we need to see also an evolution. But why that? It's not because every day all the guys on the planet who are working in the watchmaking industry say we don't want women at all. That's not the point. Since it started to be first a sort of a very, how could I say, not industrial, that's not the right word, but everything was done by hand and the whole thing, it was at the beginning, much more a man's job. Right. Okay? And we saw women coming later in the picture. But when I say later, I'm talking still, early 20th century.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so it's not like over the last 20 years. Yeah. Today, Audemars Piguet, we've got roughly 50-50 in the company. But at executive levels, it's new, and we need more and more, clearly.
Well, there's plenty more still to come from our newsmaker tonight. In the second part of our interview, Francois-Henri Benamias tells us about his competitive streak and, amazingly, about his aspirations to be a musical producer on Broadway. So you'll have to stay tuned for that. In the meantime, of course, you are watching us on television, but you can also watch us live on YouTube. And you can also catch up with our not-to-be-missed content online at cnnmoney.ch, of course, as well. First, though, for now, we're going to take a look at some sports news. And earlier, I spoke to Matt Layton, our sports correspondent, and, of course, we chatted mostly about the Olympics, but that wasn't all. Pretty big night of football last night for Basel, wasn't it? What
Champions
happened?
League, last 16, Basel 0, Manchester City 4.
Ooh.
Statistically, Manchester City passed the ball 892 times. They had possession 70% of the time, which, if you do the maths, they passed the ball every 4 seconds. Poor old Basel were running around like madmen, and they didn't have a chance, really. There was a huge difference in class, to be fair.
So this wasn't an expected scoreline?
Yes, and Basel did themselves proud. If they'd have had a Ronaldo at the end of the day, they'd have probably scored 3 goals. but Manchester City were a bit lax as well. But yes, the next match for Basel is in Manchester on the 7th of March. All they have to do to qualify for the quarterfinals is score more than 4 goals, with Manchester City not having to score.
Well,
the
when
odds
you put it
are...
like that, yes,
No.
sounds easy.
It's not going to happen. Footy fans, PSG against Real Madrid tonight and Porto against Liverpool. But let's go to the Olympics.
Yes, so we're 5 days in and we have a medal. Just one, I think.
No.
How well are we doing then? I mean, compare 5 days in this time to 5 days in the last couple of times for us.
OK, the caveat, the warning is it's been windy. So the major events for Switzerland have been cancelled. But if you look back over the years, Switzerland have 1 medal, 90 have been given out so far in 30 events. So that's appalling. However, if you look back, we've already done better than Innsbruck, 64, they had no medals. Albertville in 92, they had 3 medals. 3 times, 76, 80, 84, they had 5 medals. But they're OK, generally. If you look back for the last 24 hours, what's happened, the ice hockey ladies, and these are the best in the world because in America, they're still playing. Or they're still allowed to come over here, right? So it's the best players in the world. Switzerland beat Sweden today. It means they're in the quarterfinals. They're going to play against the loser of Russia and Finland. So that's looking really, really good. The half-pipe snowboard today. There's Pat Bugner said he had the run of his life. Unfortunately, he came against Shaun White, who is the best athlete of all time. But in generally, they're doing OK, apart from the curling. It's time now for the men's and women's curling individually, and they're off to a nightmare. They've lost all their matches so far, and it's fingers crossed they have to win the others to keep going. OK,
but given the fact that it's windy, given the fact that we're 5 days in, I mean, is scheduling the same every time we have an Olympics? You know, is our time just yet to come?
It is yet to come, and tomorrow. Okay. In a few hours' time, there is the men's downhill. It's the blue ribbon event. The good news is Switzerland has the favourite. So that's Beat Voigt, great athlete. The bad news is, in the last 30 years, the favourites never won. So that's going to be a bit of a problem. However, if you look also, we have the women's giant slalom. 2 runs. The winner from Sochi, she's retired, Tina Maze. However, Lara Gut and her friends are on form. So that's good to look out for tomorrow. And there's a few other bits and pieces where Switzerland may pick up a medal in the women's biathlon. But apart from that, I'm speaking to various people in the Swiss team who are actually based out there, and they said, so far, no panic. However, if we don't have 2 medals tomorrow, the journalists are going to start getting onto it. People are going to say, what's going on? You said you're going to have 11 medals. You already got 1. So tomorrow, big, big day.
And do you think they are feeling the pressure? I mean, you say that, you know, if they don't come away with 2 medals tomorrow, then they will feel the pressure. I mean, well, I spoke to Isabel Derong's snowboarder before she left, and she was feeling in fact, she was feeling very positive about going out and very full of energy and full of optimism. Does that all change as soon as you step off the plane?
No, because they're actually quite fragmented. Isabel, she's lots of pictures of her yesterday at the snowboard, having a whale of a time. The downhill skiers, they'll be tensing up because it was cancelled a few days ago. Some of them never been before. But in general, we have the freestyle skiers who've arrived. They're doing massive buzzes over the internet at the moment because they had the thing where they went up the escalator that the whole world's seen. Sorry. But yeah, they're adding energy. They're going to be competing in the next few or 4 days. Most of we had the bobsleighs just about to start. So the buzz is still there. I think in 2 days' time, if the medals don't come, the questions are all going to be about not are you having a wonderful time, it's why. So fingers crossed, there's medals in the next couple of days, and it's all going to be happy days. But generally, the feeling from the athletes, they're not communicating massively, but those who are communicating are all happy days, and we're going to do our best, and it's a time of our lives.
OK, Matt Leighton, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, you are, of course, watching Wednesday's edition of The Newsmaker. His watches adorn the wrists of some of the world's wealthiest. But the man overseeing the making of the famous Audemars Piguet brand confesses his heart is really on Broadway. Francois-Henri Benamias has been speaking to CNN Money Switzerland about his unlikely entry into the watchmaking industry and, on a more personal level, how musicals he enjoyed as a child continue to inspire him.
That started very young, actually. It's funny when you look back at life because my mom used to take me to see musicals. So the Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, Sid Charisse, all these movies when I was a kid. And for whatever reason, it stuck. It was always there. And music and musicals and people singing and everything, they really touched me. And I spend a lot of time listening, watching, all those type of things. And I think that one day I'm going to go and do this, potentially.
CNN Money Switzerland Leisure Weather. We start with a webcam of the day. We continue with the Alps of western Switzerland. And the weather forecast for the next days. A glance now on the resorts of central and eastern Switzerland. And an overview of the weather conditions to come. Here is the snow report of the ski resorts in France. And the weather forecast for this region. And we end with the Austrian and Italian Alps. We wish you a pleasant stay in the mountains.
Business is always changing. Keep up with CNN Money. Maggie Lake is live in the heart of the world's economic epicenter, New York City, tracking all the action of the stock exchanges and the big business stories from around the world. Get top analysis of market movement and a daily breakdown of financial headlines. CNN Money with Maggie Lake.
Spotlight, CNN Money Switzerland's program dedicated to lifestyle, celebrity, entertainment and culture. We bring you a snapshot of the latest trends in Switzerland and around the world, from Hollywood to design, big names and rising stars, to art collectors and architects. It's right here under the spotlight.
Spotlight with Martina Fuchs on CNN Money Switzerland. CNN Money Switzerland brings you the content you need, whenever you need it. Get the latest Swiss business and financial information on TV or on the go through our website, cnnmoney.ch, or through your favorite social media. The best Swiss business news, whenever and wherever you need it. Only from CNN Money Switzerland.
You make sure you're feeling good. We'll be focusing on all the tools available to us today to make sure we're physically and mentally healthy. From monitoring and avoiding disease to reactive and preventative healthcare. In particular, we'll be delving into the latest innovation coming out of Switzerland to ensure a long and healthy life.
Feeling Good with Amanda Kane on CNN Money Switzerland.
Since the founding of the Red Cross in 1863, the city of Geneva has a long tradition of hosting international organizations. In our program, International Geneva, we'll be exploring issues of international cooperation, humanitarian assistance and human rights, and talk to international players about the challenges and solutions to global problems.
International Geneva with Martina Fuchs on CNN Money Switzerland.
Welcome back, everyone. You are watching Wednesday's Newsmaker Hour. Now, often when you speak to an actor, they tell you that whilst acting is great, what they'd really like to do is be a director. In the case of tonight's newsmaker, that's also not far from the truth. Francois-Henri Benamias has experienced enviable success as the CEO of the Swiss watch brand Audemars Piguet. But in the second part of his newsmaker interview with Ana Maria Montero, he reveals how a childhood passion for musicals keeps him yearning for a life on Broadway.
One of the ways that you reach your clients, especially your VIP, so to speak, is by putting together these exclusive events. A lot of these are golf events, which is one of your passions.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea to bring these things together?
Okay, so because it could be perceived as, okay, so I love golf, so I brought golf to Audemars Piguet. First of all, the first brand ambassador, no. The first brand ambassador ever for Audemars Piguet was Nick Faldo. And we signed him in 1989. So 1989, I was not working for Audemars Piguet, okay? So golf was brought into the picture of Audemars Piguet a long time ago. Now, why?
You took up the baton.
Sure, and why? There are a very simple reason for that. Golf is the only sport that you can actually play with the ambassadors and the athletes and beat them because of the point system and everything. So we don't want our clients to be spectators of events. We want to be actors as well. So when we do our golf outings, the clients become actors. They go after the champions and they can beat them. So it's funny to see them actually interacting with them. And don't forget, our clients are the LeBron James or the Henrik Stensons and the Lee Westwoods in their own world. They are champions. If they can afford buying Audemars Piguet watches, it means that they are great at what they do in business. So when they interact with the champions, it's great. But they play with them. If not, I have to put them in watching a game, which is not the same.
You mentioned how you gave your daughter, or offered to give her first the watch when she turned 20. Watches are the kinds of gifts that people give for milestone, especially birthdays in life. What was your first watch?
Actually, I bought my first watch. My very first watch was a Rolex. I was 15 years old.
You were 15 and you bought yourself a Rolex?
Yeah, but it was very cheap then. And I bought it pre-owned, not new, from a friend of mine who was belonging to the same golf club because I was playing golf. And he had the watch and he wanted to sell it. And I said, you know what? I want to buy that watch. That was my first watch.
How did you make the jump from golf to watches?
I don't know. But actually, I do know, but it's completely by luck. I never thought I would actually work for a watch company because I met the person that gave me the job at Audemars Piguet in Saint-Barthélemy on vacation, by luck.
Going back to something you said earlier about your background, where it wasn't the conventional way, perhaps, to reach the top management of a watch company, of luxury watch company here in Switzerland. You didn't study watchmaking, you weren't an apprentice or this sort of thing. This is what I mean, right? Okay, if you could go back then maybe and talk to this young man, I don't know, let's say 20 years ago.
20 years, I was not young anymore.
When you were starting,
okay.
When you were starting your career, if you could go back and talk to this man, what advice would you give him?
Listen more. And maybe get a little bit slower on certain things. I always want things to be fast. When people ask me, when do I need it by, it's always for 2 weeks before and not for the day after. And sometimes I go too fast.
Okay.
That's what I would say. I would go back and say, slow down a little bit, enjoy life a lot more, because I really went after it hard. But I'm a very competitive person, so I wanted to win. And winning doesn't mean winning me. I wanted the Audemars Piguet team to win. I want to have the Audemars Piguet name on top of the world. So yes, and it's something where I've put a lot of efforts since I became the CEO in 2012, is to bring people together. As I said, we are now 1,600 employees. And I do believe that today we are a team. And it's also because we are a team, meaning that everybody understands clearly what the strategy of the company is, what do they have to do every day. There is no, I've just left the meeting, I don't understand what actually people talk about. No, it's very clear because we put a lot of efforts every single day to make sure that every single member of the team understands why we are doing it, how we're going to do it and through what type of time we're going to do it. That has also been helping us a lot for the last 6 years.
And is this feeling of winning and being this top team what you enjoy the most about your job?
Absolutely. Someone did ask me recently when I won't be the CEO for the Marpiguet anymore, how do I want to be remembered? As a guy that broke the billion mark? No. As a guy that reached 50,000 watches? No. As a people's person, and as someone that people remember saying, he was a tough but a great boss. Yes, that would be the thing I would want people to remember me for.
In your watch life. Now, I feel like you have another life. If I look around this room, it looks like I could be in the office of any agent in Los Angeles or New York or some sort of entertainment executive office. If you could come back and do something else that's not watches, what would that be? Can I guess?
Yeah, sure.
No, you can tell me.
No, but I would be a Broadway producer.
Musical producer.
Musical producer, yeah, on Broadway. That's what I would do. That started very young, actually. It's funny when you look back at life because my mom used to take me to see musicals. So the Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, Sid Charisse, all these movies when I was a kid. And for whatever reason, it stuck. It was always there. And music and musicals and people singing and everything, they really touched me. And I spent a lot of time listening, watching, all those type of things. And I think that one day I'm going to go and do this, potentially.
Yeah, it's
because I
still
also
back there.
No, because I also love making people happy. So my small way of doing it today is exposing people to what I've been exposed to. So when I go on YouTube and I was a long sleepless night when I've jet lagged and I'm in the middle of nowhere or in Japan or whatever, in many places, and I can't sleep, I go on YouTube and I watch videos from everyone on the planet. And when I find great voices, I come back here and I make people listen. Sometimes they cry, sometimes they laugh. I love that. I say one day that's going to be my life.
And if you look at your watches like characters a bit, like Royal Oak, you had to cast Royal Oak in some kind of story. What do you think you would do with that as a role?
As a role?
Yeah, like what kind of role would you give your Royal Oak?
It will start by you're going to fail. And the more you're going to tell that Royal Oak that she's going to fail, the more she's going to say, watch me. That's what's going to happen. That will be the role I will give to the Royal Oak. Because that's really the story. That's for real. That's what happened. In 1972, when the watch was shown for the first time in Basel, because at the time there was no SIHH, it was Basel Fair, every single CEO of a company then went to the booth, to the other Marpiguet booth, and say, congratulations, guys, here, now you've reached the upper level, you guys are going to do great. And they were leaving the booth and say, they're dead, they're dead. Like you remember the movie Jerry Maguire? When he writes the thing about taking care of the agents and everything, it'll be the same, where they say, oh, great, and he got fired. Same thing. So people were leaving saying they're dead. And look at where we are, 40, now 6 years later. So that's what it would be as a role for the Royal Oak.
Viewers, I'm sure, are asking why so many bobbleheads, etc., of Arnold Schwarzenegger, and we have a big photo of him here and photos of you guys together. What is your relationship? I mean, how did you guys become friends?
I can say that Arnold came here in 1998, and I had to be the one in charge of him that day. And we clicked. There was something. Then when I moved to the United States in 1999, we met, and through a lunch that we had together, he was supposed to buy watches. And I told him, listen, you're not going to buy watches. So I know that he was starting to shoot a movie called End of Days. And I say, if we manage to make a watch that you could actually be seen wearing in the movie, and we make a special edition of it, and we raise money for your foundation, would you like it? He said, and he told me, I love it, do it. And that's where the relationship started. So it was not about for him buying watches or for us selling watches. He said, you know what? Let's find a way to actually do something great with who you are. Because he didn't care about making money for himself at that stage. He was the best and the most paid actor in Hollywood. So the question was much more, what could we do between a huge name in Hollywood and a very unknown brand in the United States, okay, to start doing things together? And there is a funny story because when the movie came out, there was a private screening for some clients. And after that, a cocktail party where he was supposed to auction off the watch that he wore in the movie. And funny enough, if you watch the movie, and I can say this in front of, even if you listen, it was not a great movie, but that's okay. But you see the watch actually for half a second. So if you don't pay attention, you never see the watch in the movie. He's hanging from a balcony. There is a sort of blurry close-up, but you don't see anything. But at the end, to prove that the watch was in the movie, so we had a cocktail party and we auctioned off the watch to launch actually the whole thing about his foundation, which was for after-school programs for kids and everything. And he's there, except that he's late. He's 15 minutes late. And normally Arnold is never late. And people are starting to be aggravated. It was in the winter. They were not happy. Why? Waiting. And they are our clients. Wealthy people, busy people. And then he showed up. The door opened. The vibe in the room changed in 2 seconds because he was starting to talk to people, making fun, jokes, everything, but he changed the vibe. The watch at that time was $13,600 US. That was the retail value. The watch sold that night for $85,000 US. Because we had an auctioneer. He told the auctioneer, I'll do the auction myself. And he ran the auction himself. So we had the auctioneer to be the legit legal thing. He ran the auction himself. And we got $85,000 for the watch. And there were 2 lousy, blurry posters of him wearing the watch in the movie to prove actually the fact that the watch was in the movie. And people, it was so fun and so great. People say, if you sign the posters, we're going to auction the posters as well. And we got $12,000 per poster, which were impossible even to hang. They were blurry, okay? So $24,000 plus $85,000, $109,000 auction off one night with only in front of 150 people in 2000. In 2000, when the brand was actually unknown in the US, that was the first part of the very successful story of Audemars Piguet there.
What is the future for Audemars Piguet?
I'm going to tell you that sky is the limit for real. We are just at the beginning. I really do believe that the watchmaking industry hasn't started yet. Yes, sure, it has started, but when you look at our numbers, you were talking about exports last year. It's roughly 21 billion, okay? Which is roughly 50 billion in sales. You know how many companies in the world are doing, just one company, not the whole watch industry, are making more than this every year. So the way I want to look at the picture is, we've got a new market. Tomorrow we're going to do the pre-owned. We are going to sell online. We are going to do maybe other things. So we are far from having reached the true potential. And the goal of the team that we have right now working is to prepare not the next 5 years, but really the next 20, 30, 40 years.
Fascinating interview there. Well, just before we go, wanted to update you on some financial news. Credit Suisse delivered its results for 2017 this Wednesday. The year ended with a surprise. Although revenues were up in 2017, the year ended with a loss. Assets under management in wealth management rose to a record 772 billion Swiss francs. And this had a positive effect on the share price today. Credit Suisse finished in the green. Well, Peter Casanova, analyst at Julius Baer, explained a little bit more to me earlier.
Overall, I think it was pretty much in line. The net number was even stronger, but taking away, let's say, the restructuring, taking away this tax issue, taking away the garbage or the bad banks or the bit that the CEO does not want to have in the future, the core results, so the bank that goes into the future, actually was slightly weaker. And as always, you see in banking also, Credit Suisse, you tend to see the last quarter spike in the cost-income ratio. That's exactly what happened.
Well, that's all we have time for in tonight's edition of the Swiss Pulse. We will be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. Join me then if you can. In the meantime, you can check out our website, cnnmoney.ch. News programmes are usually full of short stories that hardly go beneath the surface. We give you the big picture. Every weekday evening at 7 p.m, the big picture goes deeper, looking at an issue from different angles and bringing you the guests who take time to speak, explain and elaborate. Our viewers get a deeper understanding of the day's issues and the context that underlies them. The big picture, weekdays from 7 to 8 p.m.
Money is more than just currency. It is the fuel for how we live our lives. It connects us. It drives us. It buys us things. But it is more than that. It is who we are and what we want.
Oh,
Money isn't everything, but it is everywhere. And so are we. We are younger, we are richer, and we are smarter. We are money. CNN Money.
How do you turn your idea into a successful business in Switzerland? If you want to develop your business, have individual mentoring and coaching, optimize your business model, develop a marketing strategy, acquire new skills, learn how to network. Romandie Formation, business opportunities anywhere.
CNN Money Switzerland brings you the content you need